Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Gray and Andrew Santangelo, and we have so much to talk about today. NFL news, NBA news, NHL, you name it, we've got it today. As always, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now, on to the show. So, as always, getting this started, how are you two doing today? Wonderful sports day. Should be, hopefully.
It's always a wonderful sports day.
Always wonderful. Yep.
Except for, days we don't have sports. The one time that happens the whole year.
Yeah, that's true. But got a solid workout in today, and pretty much just kind of looking forward to this.
There you go.
No, I'm excited. A lot to talk about. One of my favorite times of year. You got some drafts coming up. You got, obviously, the closure of the NHL season and everything coming up, and then all the attention goes to baseball. And I love baseball, so.
Yeah, there you go. It's officially your time to shine then. But getting into it, some NFL news. Rob Gronkowski, for the second time in his career, retiring from the NFL, only 33. I always think he's older than he is. I don't know if you two have the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I read this, it was like 33. I was like, he's not like 37? Like, what?
Yeah, it was like either 09 or 10 when he actually first started in the NFL. So, but it feels like he should be much older because the way things are going. Well, the way it seems like.
I think that's because when he first retired, he was so young at that first time when he retired. So I think that plays a factor as well. Now he's back.
Wasn't that like 3 years ago?
Yeah. So that's why he first retired at 30. So that makes it seem like he was older as well. Because when you see Brady come back out of retirement, you see Brett Favre, they were all like 35, 36. So.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's
well. In Brady's case, he was 42.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wish I could retire at 33. I mean, everyone's dream right there.
Yeah, something tells me I won't be retiring at 33. Maybe I win the lottery and something changes.
Maybe. Something can always happen. And speaking of something, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's living the dream. He retired as well. And now Thursday Night Football pregame, halftime, and postgame, he'll be there. So you get Fitz magic wherever you go now on Thursday night games.
Well, at least we get to see more of him. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what he'll bring to the table in regards to being an analyst.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you see a lot of these guys nowadays retire and become analysts. So, I mean, that just seems to be the job they all go into. Obviously, they want a guy that played there and everything. But, I mean, no, I always thought, it must be cool. Like, you already have your next job up after you retire because they all seem to have the way into there. And, I mean, no matter who it is, their first job always seems like, I'm going to go into an announcer, whether it's a play-by-play person, a pre- or post-game person. Look around. It's always a former guy.
Yep, there's always someone to get into that. Now getting into NBA news, the Magic still saying they're evaluating all possible options with the number one pick. But I know we were talking about this before the show. How many times has a team said this? I think this has been said literally every year I can remember, where it's, we're going to evaluate all options. I don't know what is being offered for the number one pick. I'd love to know, is someone going to do something stupid? We've seen a whole bunch of weird trades before. Maybe another one will happen. Anything is possible.
Well, that's the problem with the Magic. So I actually do buy this one this time because they've been known to mess it up before. They've been known to succeed before, so we'll see what happens. But this year's a year where, while I think there should be a clear number one, it doesn't seem like everybody else agrees with that. So it seems like they're going to overthink it a little bit, honestly, and we'll see what happens, whether they pick there and see what they do with pick-wise or if they end up trading it. They're more likely to keep it. It's just a matter of who they pick.
It feels like, I think Zion is the only out of all number one picks was the only one that's really stood out because it was looked to him like he is the obvious number one. Well, to me personally with the other drafts, it's more like you don't really know because sometimes you just have people that you think would go number one, like they drop down lower in the top 10, maybe to be the second pick. So I think it's just you hardly have any players that stick out as the guy to go after, but that's just how it is.
Well, I'll continue to say it. I actually disagreed with everybody that year. Zion, to me, was not a clear cut, and I said it from the beginning. I would not have taken him number one. To me, John Morant was always the best player in that draft class, and I always liked him better than Zion. So, to me, Zion was always overvalued a little bit, and that's And obviously the Pelicans did what they were supposed to do and everything.
That's an odd thing you say that because no one was really talking much about Morant as much.
No, I always loved John Morant in college.
I'm not saying you.
I'm just saying I've always
Yeah.
watched him in college. He started to break out. He had a great March Madness. I mean, obviously got out early for where he went at Murray State, but he had a great.
For Murray State, that's a good run.
He had a great run and everything, and it was just something. He had that drive and will to win. He wasn't like on that Duke, the North Carolinas, the Kentuckys. He had to go out there, put the extra effort in. And I'm not a huge fan of what he's been doing on social media. That's been a little weird. But like in terms of his talent-wise coming out and stuff like that, he was always fun to watch. And so far, it's transferred into the NBA. And obviously, Zion's had his problems.
Yeah, but it's kind of showed who's been able to stay healthy. And obviously, even though Morant did have a solid start, it wasn't anything people were really paying much attention about until this past season where he just went off. So that's where I was like, I'm not just as like your take was perfectly fine. Just that it was like one of those things that people looked at Zion as the obvious number one, and almost any team probably would have taken him, even though against their better judgment. Obviously, New Orleans are really reconsidering that option, but hopefully Zion can come back and actually be healthy next season and actually do something for them.
No, yeah, I hope he's the best.
Yeah.
And my thing always with him was, as big like muscle as he was, he's always like undersized a little bit in terms of like where his position should be. Like he's always listed as a center, but he's only like 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah,
He's a small forward.
That's what he should be. But they try to stretch him into that spot, and I mean that's where he played at Duke and everything. And I never forget when he went up with Taco Fall in that UCF game. They were trash talking, and they barely. And that's kind of where my questioning really took off, was when they barely beat UCF in that game. I was like, he just never had that extra drive to carry him over. Like, there's no reason that game should have been that close as it was. So that's when I really started. And then they just never really impressed me in that March Madness. I was like, John Morant really is the guy here. And and I'll say it. I'll wait till we talk about it to say who I really like in this class. But
I mean, we'll kind of get into that. But the three guys mentioned in the article here: Jabari Smith Jr. out of Auburn, Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga, and Paulo Banchero, another Duke power forward, center, small forward, whatever you want to list him as with his height.
I will say right now, though, not like saying who I like best, I do think Paulo will be better than Zion, if you want to compare those two.
Okay, if we want to compare Duke power forwards of the last 3 years. And moving on, I saw this kind of funny because John Wall still exists. I think everyone forgot that he existed, but he's getting paid $47 million. So, I mean, he's clearly still making money. Sides are going to start talking a buyout if no trade option is found for John Wall, but he did exercise his player option today. I just thought it was funny because this shows you what happens when you give albatross contracts to people, and why you've got to be careful with your money in the NBA.
Well, that you obviously that's more like you blame the Wizards for that, but obviously they traded him for Westbrook, but just to get Westbrook out of Houston. But obviously it's with John Wall's just kind of like he's just here to make money. It's like there's no drive for him to really go anywhere to really do anything. I understand he wants out of Houston, but it's like, what team? What else are you going to offer? Because you don't really stick out among other players, and to be honest.
Yeah, John Wall was the guy I kind of always felt bad for because, like, he immediately got overshadowed always. I always thought he was a solid, good point guard, but no matter what he did, no one was ever going to talk about it. He was just a guy that was there. And then he got outshadowed on his own team by Bradley Beal, which, I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's Bradley Beal. He's a great scorer. But I always kind of felt bad for him. Then injuries pile up and things, and now you're just kind of here. And that kind of shows the weird fate of the NBA, I guess you could say.
No, absolutely. And that's where it's a shame to see if Rockets are going to actually buy him out, why didn't they just buy him out last year? Why did you make him sit out a year? Like, he was healthy enough to come play, and it came out where he wanted to be traded and stuff, but they were all in that tanking mode and everything, so they didn't want to get rid of him yet because they still have to meet the minimum part of the salary cap that the NBA has. Not just the maximum, they have the minimum as well, so they had to meet the minimum, and that's what he was able to do there, help them reach that minimum salary. So the way Houston kind of played it, I think, is wrong. But now that they obviously made the trade of Christian Wood and everything, now they're really ready to go to that next level. And here's the thing. I mean, kind of like you said, Connor, who's going to want him at this point? Like, who's not even worrying about his talent after sitting out a year, but who wants to take on the $47.4 million? Like, and I I always forget the NBA's rules with money because they're weird. So I don't know if it's like baseball or football where you can actually pay. Like if they make a trade, Houston can eat a lot of that, and that's your best chance of trading him. I don't know if you can do that in the NBA. I forget their.
I think you have to match like most of the salary, so you'd have to trade like a decent package for him, and I don't really know why you would want to do that.
Well, and that's my point. If you look, I'm going to go to the Sixers a little bit because I know their salary cap obviously a little better. But if you're trying to match salaries here, the guys on the Sixers are going to be Harden and Tobias Harris, or Joel Embiid, obviously. Why would you trade one of those three for John Wall?
The process too.
If you go to other teams, I mean, you're probably looking at Giannis, LeBron, Kevin Durant, maybe. No, but even like Houston's not ready to win.
Trade
Kyrie's
Westbrook back to the Rockets, I guess.
So basically the idea is that obviously, way I say he's not going to get traded. So they're going to be looking at Houston and Wall are hoping that the contract can get bought out so he can go wherever. But if it does get bought out, I hope he knows he will not get a lot of money going wherever. If he's asking for 8 figures, good luck with that because just the way he's going to be viewed as, even if he can score and bring stuff to that team, it's just not. It's going to have to be probably maybe 6-7 million. It can't be anything higher than that because teams have to account for. You have to account for everything else, but also you have to realize he's never going to be that guy. So he's probably going to be like a 6th or 7th guy off the bench, and maybe he could start somewhere, but that's stretching it a lot. But it's like that contract has to go down or be gone completely.
No, yeah, I agree.
So
and I will say something funny about John Wall. I always laugh about. So me and my buddies every year, we'll like throw in our group chat just like predictions for the season and everything.
Yeah.
So before they announced they were going to sit him out all year, I said John Wall was going to win comeback player of the year.
There you go.
I've always loved John Wall and felt bad for him.
He was the ultimate bench player.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like a great piece off the bench this year and like off the injury and everything. And then eventually he'll get traded at the deadline because Houston wasn't good. And then they're just like, you know what, we're going to sit him out all year and not trade him. I was like, well, there goes that prediction.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes you get it right. Sometimes you get it wrong.
Yep.
And
that's how the NBA is.
Speaking of getting right and wrong, Kenny Atkinson not going with Charlotte. That was a big story that broke during the finals. He decided not to become the head coach of the Hornets. So Mike D'Antoni is now set to meet with Michael Jordan about being the potential next coach of Charlotte. I think this could be a really good thing for LaMelo Ball especially. I mean, you've always seen what D'Antoni can do with point guards. He can always elevate them to their best game. Defense is going to be a problem. That's always a problem with D'Antoni coach teams, it feels like. But Charlotte's going to get into shootout mode, it feels like, if this goes through. But sometimes you need to do that, especially in the East.
Yeah, I think D'Antoni might be the best option at this point. You're so late in the process. Obviously, you thought you had a guy in mind here. Kind of screams similar to Josh McDaniels' situation with New England. You saw a couple times over there in the NFL. Yeah. This was a weird case here. I would say, honestly, though, Mike's been around the league, obviously, for a while. You know what you're getting out of him. Where if you're Charlotte, you kind of haven't really been overly relevant really that much. Go take a chance on someone else. And I hate to lose him on the Sixers staff, but Sam Cassell's been a really good assistant. I think he, at this point, I mean, if I'm Charlotte or another team, I'd take a chance with him before D'Antoni. But, I mean, at this point, maybe Charlotte's just like, let's get in the playoffs, let's make our names for ourselves again. But I don't know. To me, you got a bunch of young guys, start fresh with a new coach, too. Let them build together and take off here in a few years. Is the way I would go. But, again, at this point, you're so late. You're almost, if you get a big name like that, go run with it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Moving on to a little bit more NBA news, the final piece I have for you. The Suns are doing weird stuff again. I don't know what Phoenix does. It doesn't make – I don't know why you're – I don't know if I said something funny or –
No,
just Phoenix in general is funny, which I mean it kind of is.
Phoenix's front office.
Phoenix's front office
and
is really funny.
Is funny.
I
so
love.
That's why I'm laughing.
I love when contenders try to save cap space. Why are you doing that? You're a contender.
It's like, and don't they have the cap space to give him a mega
I mean, you have
contract?
like bird rights exist. Like I understand they don't want to pay the luxury tax. I understand that, but at the same time. Why are you trying to trade Cam Johnson for the 8th pick so you can then give Ayton the extension when you can just give Ayton the extension? I don't understand this logic.
I think you can construct his contract to where you can make it work. You don't have to like I feel like there are ways to avoid having to pay luxury tax, but it's like when you're a contender, especially the way they were playing last year, most of that season until they played the Mavs, it's one of those things where it's like you have the team that you want together, and if you can just as long it's like if you're willing to take a small hit with the luxury tax, go for it. And if it doesn't work, then you can make a possible move or release a player. But
I mean, Sarver says he's indicated he'll go into the luxury tax, but we've never seen that happen before.
No.
It's one of those if he does it, great, amazing. Phoenix is taking a step towards actually being a contender. But if they don't, it's just kind of what you expect out of the Suns.
Just making sure, is Chris Paul on a max contract?
Yeah, he's
I mean, yeah.
I knew Devin Booker was, but
the problem with they got a lot of weird contracts. Like Jay Crowder's probably close to a max. You figure? I think they just
locked Crowder with a max.
I mean,
he's probably pretty close to it.
I mean, you got to remember also maxes are different for stars and not stars.
Yeah, and they have the
like a max starter would be like 15 to 20 million somewhere in there.
Well, they also have the super max and the regular max. He's not on the, Chris Paul is probably on the super max.
Okay, that's a lot more terminology than I thought there actually was.
But you figure,
there's a lot more weird contract terminology in the NBA. It's wonderful.
Instead of just keeping it simple,
you got Devin Booker on crazy amount.
Booker obviously would be because he's your star player before Ayton really broke out.
Yeah, you have Devin Booker and Chris Paul on the Supermax. They're both getting over $100 million over their contracts. Then you got Michael Bridges, who you just re-signed recently. He's getting $90 million over 4 years, so he's pretty close to that. The shocking one here is Landry Shamet is making $42.5 million over 4 years. Well, that's a lot for him.
That's what happens when you acquire that Clippers contract.
I will say I was wrong about Jay Crowder. He's making, not that it's a small amount of money, but it's less than I thought.
It's still more.
29.1 over 3 years. So that's still a lot, but that's not nearly as what I expected.
Yeah, so that's like nine and some change.
The problem to me here is, I think this comes out to a little over $4 million if I did the math right in my head. Cam Johnson's only making I gotta stop using only. But he's getting $18 million over 4 years. That's only like $4 and change.
Yeah, well,
that's not a lot of money. That's not going to open up that much. If you want to,
well, here's the thing: he has an extension coming up this offseason as well. So I think the plan there is that Ayton, looking at his options, he wanted the 172.5 over 5 years. The Suns did not give him that at the beginning of the year. He could also sign the 1 year qualifying tender worth $16 million, which would then make him an unrestricted free agent the next summer. So a lot of options here.
And that's the thing. If he makes 172, he's making 14.5 more over that time than Devin Booker, as Booker's only getting 158.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much they really want to go over the luxury. But here's my thing: if you're actually trying to open up cap space, I'm not giving away Cam Johnson. I'm shipping a Jay Crowder and a Landry Shamet to another contender, and you could give those two guys out and keep. Cam Johnson's a young guy; he's going to be really good. I liked him coming out in the draft as well, and everyone thought they overdrafted him where they did, and he continues to play really well. So I would not give away Cam Johnson if I'm them. I'd give away.
You don't.
Go give a Crowder and a Landry Shamet or something to like the Lakers. I guess they want to get the 8th pick. That is what they're going for.
Yeah.
But this is also a weird. I don't know.
Well, at least you get a higher pick out of it if you can try to do something with it. But that's if they're even willing to give up their pick.
Yeah, I don't think New Orleans wants to give up their pick though. After how the postseason ended, you played well against the Suns. You're already building a young team. Why would you give up a lottery pick you already have unless you know you're getting like a certified star or something like that? So especially with Zion coming back, too.
Yeah, that would be an interesting trade, though. And that would be an interesting Pelicans roster. I don't know how that – you'd go CJ, you'd go Johnson, you'd go Zion.
Then you're putting Zion or Johnson at the 5. Like how?
Then you're going Johnson or Zion at the 5, and I don't think either one of them are bigger than 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah. No, and you go ahead.
I said because of his size, you have to go Zion at the 5 and Johnson at the 4. You really have to live off fast breaks and go with a quick team there.
That's where they need to either go try to do a trade to get someone big, which I doubt they will do, or you got to draft a big guy.
Although no, I'm stupid. If they're trading with the Pelicans again, Oh no, I read that backwards. They're keeping Ayton. Well, no, because I remember in the playoffs, DeAndre Ayton said how upset he was, and everyone thought he was leaving the Suns.
Yeah.
So if they can't agree to that, you might see them move Ayton. So that could go both ways.
They very well could.
Then you could be screaming there, and while we're on this, a team, if they're willing to give up a pick for young DeAndre Ayton and actually spend money, the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah,
I would take the.
I would put Ayton's and Sabonis together. That'd be a really good front court.
I would take DeAndre Ayton for the 4th pick in a heartbeat, especially with De'Aaron Fox running the point and everything.
And also, it's the Kings. You don't know what they're going to do with that 4th pick.
I know exactly. And here's the thing: we all know the Kings aren't going to make that trade. But I'm just saying, if I was in charge of the Kings, the second you hear Ayton's upset and probably not going to re-sign that deal because he's not going to take the $16 million qualifying offer, like he's looking for, like you said, he's looking for the $172 million.
Yeah.
So
for all we know, this is probably going to go until probably really close to when the season starts, when they finally come to an agreement.
Yeah, and that's
the way I think it's going to happen, is where eventually I think they'll try to do something where they'll get a deal in, but it's one of those. I think, in my opinion, as much as Ayton's important to that team, I think he's asking a little too much. Like, if he was asking for like 140, that'd be more reasonable, because then that way they could make that work. But they're asking for 107. I mean, you're asking more than arguably your best player on the team. Because
to a degree, I would say here's the problem though. These guys don't look at it, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't know for sure, but they don't really look at it as, am I the best player on their team? They look at it as, where am I in the NBA? And you could argue DeAndre Ayton's top 2, top 3 center in the NBA, and that's where he's looking.
I get that's what he's looking at, but it's one of those things. It's one of those where it's like you got to make a more reasonable deal. But it's like if he was on the unrestricted. If he was like going out as a free agent, then he can make that deal all he wants. But he's still on the Suns.
Yeah, no. Let's see. I'm gonna look up real quick. So Joel Embiid is getting $147 over 5 years. He signed that deal back in, I think it was 1920. So you're looking at DeAndre Ayton. He's looking at no, and I agree. 172 is a lot. I'm just saying where they look at it is he's looking at, he's probably comparing himself to about this Embiid's deal.
Yeah. And
Embiid's getting 147, so you figure, all right, the times have changed. Now he's going to get a little bit more than that. So I mean, that's where he's coming from. If I'm the Suns, I'd probably go with. Obviously you're gonna have to find a way to get not halfway, but meet in the middle somewhere. You're probably gonna look at. I'm gonna say if he stays with Phoenix, or actually no matter where he goes, I'll probably say he signs for around 160 to 163.
Yeah, but I think if he still wants to be with the Suns, he's going to have to bring that amount of money down by almost $30 million. I would say, so they can make a deal work where they don't have to worry about cap, even though I don't think they would have to worry about it as much. But then again, suppose that they're going to go over the luxury tax, so that's where. Yeah. Obviously, that's for them to figure out, and we'll just see where it goes from
We'll
here.
wait and see. Free agency's only a week or two away. We'll see and wait for chaos on Earth, as it always is when we get to free agency. Something random will happen. While we're on it, I don't have it pulled up, but we can talk about it. I don't know if you two saw the Kyrie Irving thing where he's not been able to get a deal done with the Nets. The Knicks are now opening up potentially as an option. The Lakers are put there as an option as well. A possible Westbrook for Kyrie trade, get Westbrook and Katie back together. Who says no? Everyone probably associated with the Brooklyn Nets.
They didn't. When Katie left the Thunder, it wasn't on good terms.
Listen, if Philly needs to give Harden back to the Nets for one game so we can get the OKC Big Three in Brooklyn. That's all we need to do.
I'm just saying,
one game to see how it happens. That's all I'm asking. Picture
this offense. Obviously Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant, but let's see who would be paired up with as the starters next year. Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook.
That's the greatest offense.
Just sounds brutal to watch.
Listen, Andrew, spacing is a mindset.
And then who's their center? This year's Andre Drummond. That's just horrible.
The no 3-point shooters except Kevin Durant offense.
And listen,
the Nets are about to revert to the 1950s.
I love Andre Drummond, but all that guy can do is rebound and dunk. So you're gonna have Ben Simmons, who all he can do is pass the ball and dunk. All Andre Drummond can do is rebound and dunk.
Ben Simmons can avoid getting hurt on free throws.
He can do
that
a 3 every 13 shots.
Yeah. And Russell Westbrook will drive in for layups. Talk about
at least that's scoring.
We're talking about the Pelicans having to win off fast breaks. That team's going to have to run off fast breaks because they're not going to be able to have a half-court offense.
And I don't think Drummond can be able to even run that fast.
You just tell Drummond, just stay back for defense, get us some block shots and rebounds, find the outlet, pass on the breakaway.
my favorite is my favorite one might be Kyrie to the Knicks because that just imagine that team. It would just like nothing would change. The Knicks would still be like barely contenders. Yes, Kyrie would be great, but you'd be back where you were with Carmelo. It would be a flat circle basically where you've gone 10 years and you fixed nothing.
I don't know who's your guard right now, Kemba. That's a big up. I actually like that Knicks team, man. Kyrie and Julius Randle, that's actually a pretty good mix there.
I don't know. I feel like that could work, but just seeing how hard the Knicks regressed this year, that just feels like it would turn into just Kyrie trying to carry that team.
Didn't Randle miss a lot?
I don't know if he did. I know he started off pretty slow and people weren't happy about it. And then you got the whole, war between him and the fans where it's like try harder basically was the entire argument.
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you what about Brooklyn, I think. If they can't get a deal done and he's out, Durant's out.
Golden State signs Durant?
Durant's not.
Let's just bring all the chaos lines back.
Just tell me real quick. If you're Kevin Durant, James Harden walked out because of how bad management was. Now you have Kyrie Irving gone. What's Kevin Durant's incentive to stay? Ben Simmons?
Yeah.
Like
the greatest incentive.
And then Seth Curry and Andre Drummond are free agents, so you're about to lose 2 more starters possibly. So you're possibly looking at 3 starters gone. Yeah. And you're going to have you have no money because you're paying Ben Simmons a fortune and Kevin Durant a fortune. I mean, Kevin Durant's going to win out too. So you might be looking at Kevin Durant either on a trade deadline or wide open in free agency.
Yeah.
I swear to God, if he goes back to the Warriors, I'm going to lose it.
I don't think that will never. I don't think that'll ever happen after some things that have happened between those players. But if you want to top 2016, you trade Kyrie for Westbrook, and then Golden State somehow makes a trade for Durant, and we're right back where we were. If you want to, the only way to top 2016 storyline is to do 2016 Part 2.
Right after Kevin Durant signed with Brooklyn, he bought part ownership in the Philadelphia Union, which is the Major League Soccer team in Philadelphia. So it only makes sense for him to go to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So it will be James Harden and Kevin Durant reuniting.
There you go. And then you add Joel Embiid as the Westbrook, but better, and also 7 feet tall.
So there you go. There's the big 3 next year.
The next big 3 we all want to see. Truly amazing.
One can dream.
Or, I don't know. Something random can happen. You never know in the off season, and that's why I love it so much. Or, maybe Damian Lillard also gets traded to Philly. Let's just put everyone in Philly. Let's put Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard. There will be 4 basketballs on the court at all times. So Embiid, Durant, Harden, and Lillard can all score at the same time.
Unfortunately,
and score 200 points a
game. It's Philadelphia, though, so they'll find a way to lose.
Instead, they'll trade Embiid for Dwight Powell, and I'll be one happy man.
Ended up happening between Harden and Durant. How do you get those two to be willing to play with each other?
Well, it was never really Harden Durant. Harden got mad at Kyrie, and it was more Harden versus Kyrie than it was Harden Durant. Because Durant and Harden wanted to pair up there, and then Kyrie pulled his stuff this year, not playing and everything, and that's why Harden wanted out.
Basically not playing home game.
Yeah.
Well, because New York City wouldn't let him because he refused to get vaccinated.
Well, he didn't play road games until I think it was
he didn't play for a while.
Yeah. So, but that's why Harden got upset, and then everything else continued to fall down there. And so I personally think, and I could be completely wrong.
I mean, the way the media portrayed it, and also obviously when you watching that All-Star selection, he basically avoided trying to pick Harden. That's where people thought there was at least some beef between those two.
Yeah, no, maybe there were. To me, though, I always saw it as Harden versus Kyrie.
It more likely was, but
maybe they all didn't like each other.
Well, that's my thing, too, is Kyrie must not be getting along, because Kyrie and Durant don't seem like they want to stay together either. Like, there's a lot more in that locker room right now going on. So, to me, Harden wasn't just the problem in that locker room. And I don't think Ben Simmons came in and helped either because he continued to sit out, so he probably stirred things up there as well. So, I don't know. Brooklyn's a mess. To me, it's kind of funny because they're supposed to be like the big challengers, and
if Ben Simmons still doesn't play going into the next season, it's basically like you got
he becomes the GSOAT, greatest sitter of all time.
I'll tell you what though, Simmons probably hopes that Durant and Kyrie both leave, though, because that'll make that team irrelevant. He'll be able to really do whatever he wants.
Yeah, he'll just have control.
Where if they stay there, There's gonna be a lot of pressure for him to be that third piece to win.
Well,
So
that's where he shouldn't be talking about. Well, I want to do this and that, about wanting to play and then not play. So
well, he's made it known he doesn't really want to play. I mean, he's never said, "Oh, I want to get back on the court."
Yeah.
That's been one of my issues with him the whole team. There's been no urgency to play.
Mm-hmm. And moving on to two teams that did want to play, the Warriors and the Celtics in the NBA Finals. Why did that glitch like that? That was weird. Warriors, Celtics, Game 6. Kind of one final recap on this one. Golden State getting the 103-90 win, getting another NBA title. My goodness, just what a run for the Warriors. Just continuing, even after 2 years of injuries and rebuild and everything being thrown their way to come back and win another NBA title. This time without Kevin Durant, proving the original trio can still do it with the help of everyone's favorite center, Andrew Wiggins.
Well, and it also kind of, they basically were a completely different team after 2 years. Obviously, after Durant left, then the team basically, a lot of players came in and out. You obviously had Wiggins coming in. You had Jordan Poole coming right into his own. You inserted Gary Payton II, somehow reviving his career, it seemed like. And then obviously, despite the fact they really didn't play together a lot of the year, it showed that the chemistry was still there regardless between the three of them. And even though Draymond has dropped off from the player he used to be, what it feels like to me, obviously this last game he almost had the fact he
the near triple double.
That was
that was the best part. I thought if you're a Warriors fan,
it's like if he actually got a triple double, I'd be like, oh my god, this man who has been washed up somehow managed to get a triple double. That would have been hilarious.
He got fueled by the crowd in Boston,
but obviously Clay didn't have like the Game 6 meme that everyone taught.
5 for 20.
Always loved to just meme about, but he still put some points where you needed him to score, and obviously Steph being Steph. Yeah. And at the end of the day, they proved they were a much better team and more cohesive unit than Boston was, because Boston's star player Tatum did not really show throughout this whole series when they needed him.
No, but their best player did show.
Yeah, I know.
Jaylen Brown.
Everyone calls me crazy, but I like Jaylen Brown better.
The way Jaylen Brown's been playing, he's been the best player on that team.
No, I agree. Again, I've been saying it for a while. I said at the beginning of this year, I remember I was debating with somebody. It was my cousin, maybe, I don't know, but I always preferred if they were both free agents, I would sign Jaylen Brown over Tatum. But no, I think. It's a shame. Like, this Warriors championship would have been more enjoyable if Draymond wasn't. Like, Draymond's just crazy. I can't get behind him. But even the stuff he's doing at the parade and everything, it's just weird to me. Like,
listen, he's just vibing. We don't know what he's doing. He's just doing whatever he wants.
But
Podcast Draymond is a different player than regular Draymond,
I guess. But no, listen, the Warriors obviously, like you guys mentioned, Curry did Curry things. The player they need to be thanking is Andrew Wiggins. If Andrew Wiggins didn't show up, they would have lost the series. He continued to do his thing. He was efficient again in this game.
18 points here, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, 3 blocks.
And even 4-9 from 3. Like, he's usually not that efficient from behind the arc. Like that's even an impressive number for him. So no, he came out. He was a big part of that win, and obviously good for him. Obviously everyone was writing him off as a bust. And sometimes it just takes guys a few years to get used to it. And he's been around a few teams now, so he's settled in. It helps him that he didn't have to be the go-to piece in this series and on this team. So, is he a free agent?
I don't remember if he is or not.
I can't remember if he's a free agent, but I think it's this year or next year. But he'll
get money.
He's gonna get paid pretty well, especially if it's next year. He'll have a full season now. I think he'll take off again. And because here's the thing, if he's a free agent, I don't know if the Warriors will be able to bring him back. I know Payton's a free agent, so that'll be an interesting.
I know the Warriors, at least everything I've heard, is they said they're willing to go all out to bring everyone back.
So, maybe he's a free agent.
They're willing to pay as much money as they have to.
That makes it sound like he's a free agent then if they said that. So, I think Otto Porter's a free agent too. So, they meshed really well. But this was – they obviously made their name before Durant, obviously. But to me, this was also more impressive. Well, although – no, I might take that back because they beat LeBron and that The group here was more impressive, but the win over LeBron and company was more impressive.
This was more impressive in the fact that they're still able to do it despite all the stuff that's happened. They've been able to overcome the obstacle and climb the mountain again.
No, exactly.
Climbing the mountain the first time is impressive. To do it twice, 7 years later after that first one.
Yeah, and especially still to survive the season and get a 3 seed and be in this position after. I mean, I forget how much time it is, but Curry was out a little bit that season. Yeah. Clay was out 3/4. Yeah. Maybe that's a little bit more than he was.
2/3 of the season.
2/3, 3/4 of the regular season.
Draymond had a spent where he was out.
Yeah, and Draymond was out. He obviously struggled. Jordan Poole, he was the answer in the regular season. Yeah, he didn't have the most efficient playoffs, but then the playoffs got there, and it was Andrew Wiggins' turn to step up. It was Porter's turn to step up. It was, Peyton showed out a little bit in the finals. His turn to show up. So this was a cool quality win there for the Warriors.
Okay, I just pulled up their payroll. That Wiggins has 1 more year left on his contract.
Okay.
So he'll be here next year. The guys there that will not be here next year unless they get them signed would be Kevin Looney, Andre Iguodala, Otto Porter Jr., and then Nemanja Bjelica, and then Gary Payton's on his last. This was his last season.
Yeah.
But he'll more likely get re-signed.
More than likely.
I think almost all their guys that have been getting playing time will more likely get re-signed. They'll just some of their contracts will obviously be a little higher, some not as much, might be the same. Who knows? But I expect and Jordan Poole actually has another year left on his contract. I think maybe still is he on his rookie contract or is
Poole? I think he is.
Yeah, he's
okay. So he's getting paid almost $4 million next year.
Yeah.
So really nobody that loses is that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like obviously they meshed really well, but like who was the shooter that was like pulled off the Jordan Poole kind of this year or Peyton had that kind of year that was with the Warriors and then he signed with the Lakers?
Oh gosh.
I'll look it up. It up. But no, to me, all those guys are kind of like that. Like while they meshed well and it's fun to watch their big kind of breakout.
Oh, it was Bazemore, wasn't it? Or Ken Bazemore, maybe?
No, I don't think it was Bazemore. But But those guys, like they're gonna be like they're in that sense they're replaceable and they can do that. So I'll be interested to see how they manage this offseason. Obviously they'll try to bring everybody back because they meshed well.
Yeah, half their lineup is luckily still under contract. I mean, obviously your big important guys are still available. Obviously after next season, Andrew Wiggins will probably be expecting a big contract again.
Yeah.
And then basically, it's just pretty much everyone else is that you got to be somehow be able to get them to stay, which I think they'll be able to bring everyone back.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think in regards to cap, they're not in really bad trouble.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see for sure. One final question I do have, because everyone's been having this talk: where does Curry stand now with his 4th championship? With what he's been able to do, getting his finals MVP, he's getting more of the accolades. What is his path, if there is a path, to becoming the GOAT for Steph Curry? What would his path have to be?
The GOAT?
Because, I mean, he's at 4 titles, 2 more, and you tied Jordan. You've got your finals MVP.
Does he only have 2 MVPs?
I think so, but it was the first unanimous ever MVP.
That's understandable why he unanimous for that particular year, but it's just, I'd either try to go for an MVP run and also try to win another title. That's a way to establish yourself as the GOAT. Because this is how people are going to look at it, because you're going to have the critics that are going to be like, well, he only won 2 titles without Durant. As if those 2 other titles meant that Durant carried that team, despite the fact Steph was still being Steph. Clay was doing great. Draymond was actually still a good player at the time. I say Draymond's a good player at the time. He still gives you decent numbers that you need from him, but he's not the same player he used to be during that 3 out of 4 year run. Yeah. But people are going to look at it. Well, they needed Durant to win those 2 other ones, despite the fact that they should have beaten LeBron, and they could have probably won those. Maybe
they probably could have won those 2 without Durant, but they would have been a lot tighter.
I think the second time they had to play LeBron won their first year with Durant.
Yeah.
First year with Durant, they probably would have won. That second year, probably not as much. But I would say Durant was a little more helpful with that 3rd title. But it's one of those things where it's still going to be looked at. He needed Durant to win 2 of his 4 titles. And that's where I would be like, I think Durant needed them more than they needed him.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, because where Durant hasn't won a title with anybody else that wasn't with the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I will always stand by. And Steph, in my opinion, is proving he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Especially in regards as a point guard. Even though to me he's more of a shooting guard than anything else, he still dribbles like he's probably the best point guard with the best dribbling skills since maybe Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but it's really hard to say where his legacy goes from here. I still think if he gets a 5th title, he can easily throw himself into that GOAT conversation, even though he's probably already in it. He's in it already. But I think if he wins another one and obviously wins another Finals MVP, and if he could make a MVP run, if he can play the whole year without getting hurt, I could easily, that would cement his status as up there with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It's just that, because I know people already want to put LeBron there, but I've never been as high on LeBron, mainly after his, because obviously I thought he was an up and coming really greatness with the Cavs, because obviously he's the star player for that team. But when we went to Miami, even though he was obviously really important for that Miami Heat team, it did feel like he was kind of in the background because he was stuck behind Dwayne Wade. That's just how I looked at it. And obviously when he went back to Cleveland, great strong start, winning his championship. But it seems like after he won that title, he's just kind of not been the on-top player that he used to be. That's just how I look at it.
First, I think this is the guy, Quinn Cook. Shot 44% from 3 and then 42% and then signed with the Lakers. So I think it was Quinn Cook.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if that name rings a bell.
That name does. I do remember him because it was like I remember.
You probably remember from Dallas days.
I do remember. I also remember where he was on the Warriors and the Knicks tried to throw like a 15 million year contract at him for no reason. And it was just and this was the day after the Knicks said they wouldn't give Kevin Durant a max.
Yeah, no, exactly. No,
it was
exactly.
the funniest 1-2 combo and I was like, that is the peak Knicks. That is the New York Knicks fan experience.
I love it.
And they brought Stephen A out to be like, Stephen A, discuss.
Yeah.
And he's like, what am I supposed to say? Yeah. It was some of the best trolling ESPN's provided in a long time.
I'm not sure if we've had that conversation, but I really do hate it. It's basically, it feels like the NHL where guys get thrown big contracts for players that haven't necessarily proved themselves to really earn those contracts.
But he won 3 rings.
Yeah, but was he really an equivalent
He
player?
shot 44% from 3. You heard, Andrew.
That don't mean anything.
Make him the starting point guard. Nothing bad will happen.
How many did he actually shoot? That's what I want to know.
You know, he all needed to do was shoot in like 20.
So let me get back to the Curry thing. And here's what's funny about it, because I've started to change my stance on this, is when you hear people say, oh, you can't really compare them, different era to era. You can't really compare them because it's different and all that. And I'm starting to go that way. And I used to be harsh with that. And obviously we still have fun and argue and compare everything. But it's so tough. And here's why. While rings do count to a degree,
they're not.
You have to be careful with it.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it,
I mean, if rings really...
And I got nothing against him. He played in Philadelphia a little bit in his college career and then transferred to Louisville. Mm-hmm. If you click on Damian Lee right now, who did not play, hasn't played much with the Warriors, I'm pretty sure, I know he's got 2, but I think he's got 3 rings now with the Warriors.
Yeah.
He's probably played not even 30 games worth, probably, if you add up all of his minutes, or close to it. Yeah. So that's why I got to be careful with the rings argument, because, I mean, again, you got guys like Damian Lee. Who is it? Was it Brian Scalabrine? I think he kind of was a journeyman and won a bunch of rings on the bench as well. So, again, that's where my argument lies. You have greats, and I get it. You got to carry your team and everything. I get that part of it too. But you got to remember, it also is a team game. So, I mean, you look at guys like Allen Iverson. He was one of the best of his time, but he never had that much help, so he never won.
It's like Michael Jordan has 6 rings because of the players he had around him.
He had a ton of help.
Yeah. And obviously LeBron able to win his championships, he had the help around him. It's where and thinking even
Same thing with Kobe Bryant. Even he had
Kobe
help
Bryant.
around him,
Yeah,
honestly.
ton.
and the great Shaq, even the great Bill Russell. Many of these talents that we view as the greatest ever
All had help.
have always had help. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had the great Lakers teams he was with, and obviously the one he won in Milwaukee, he had a great team around him.
And then you bring up my next point, and you talk about Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain being part of the greats. Everyone's argument is, they didn't play anybody. They didn't play anybody. Why can I not like a guy? I mean, they still put up those numbers. Like to me, I can't say, that guy isn't good because he didn't play in a good era. Like that's not his fault. He was born whatever year he was born.
Like the generational talents that just grew up in an era where they were better than everybody else.
So that's where I'm starting to lean towards it. It is pretty tough because Wilt might not play with a bunch of guys. Bill might not play with a bunch of guys. How do I diminish Wilt averaging 30-plus points a game for his career and 22 rebounds? Like, that's still quality numbers, obviously. So, and again, here's my thing. Going back to the Curry, the original question. While, yes, he's going to be looked at as a possible GOAT option, obviously. To me, I know everyone loves to throw out the word Mount Rushmore, so I'll throw that out there. To me, he doesn't even make that. Like that's where I don't like. While he's obviously a fantastic player, I don't even put him on my quote unquote Mount Rushmore. So for me, he's still got a lot of work to do to be the GOAT.
Yeah,
well, he still at least has like 4 or 5 more years left in his career.
No, and he does.
Yeah,
but you gotta remember when he first started, he wasn't anything. Like obviously he was a good shooter, but he wasn't carrying anybody. Like he carried this team this year, and he went on to win that. But
he was that guy who might be a good piece to Monte Ellis.
Well, let me throw out these names first. Is he better than LeBron?
No.
Is he better than Kobe Bryant?
No.
Is he better than and there's another argument. How do you compare centers and point guards? But is he better than Shaquille O'Neal?
I mean, how can we compare that? One shoots threes, one dominates it.
Exactly.
Two completely different
I'd say
play
as
styles.
an overall shooter, I was just like on guard shooting ability between LeBron and Curry. Curry's a better shooter, but LeBron is an overall better package.
Oh, no, that's absolutely right. And that's why I will always say Steph Curry is probably the greatest shooter. He's the greatest shooter of our lifetime, probably the best ever.
Yeah.
But that's a different argument to be made than where is he in the greatest player argument. And that's the same thing with Tom Brady, and I'm across the board, but Tom Brady and everything in my eyes is, he goes down as probably the greatest accoladed quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
But I will always argue, I think Aaron Rodgers is more talent than Tom Brady.
Talent-wise, yes. I'm more clutch. I'd say Brady's better.
Exactly. But again, so that's where it's funny. There's so many different viewpoints and different angles you can take into this. Because I'll be honest, I could keep going with names because I don't view Curry as a top 10 player yet.
Yeah. I mean, that is the thing. When you have 75 years of history, you have so many people to choose.
There's too much history. And
what point guards can you throw in from? You can throw nearly anyone. I mean, you can even go back as Oscar Robertson even. Like, he's still got to be relevant in that debate.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I said LeBron, Kobe, and Shaq.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish the Lakers. You could say Kareem's better. You could say Magic's better.
Yeah.
Then Larry Bird, you could say is better.
Yeah.
You could say
Jerry West and Elgin Baylor got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And you know who I didn't even mention yet? Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And I didn't even mention.
You had Scottie Pippen to that. You had Dennis. Dennis Rodman's not really scoring.
Yeah,
Dennis Rodman is a great.
He's a
defense. I'd still take. In regards to putting a team together or putting on there, Dennis Rodman's really up there.
Exactly, and that's where you get is Wilt and Bill better than Curry, but then it's like. Well, obviously Curry's the better shooter.
I don't know. They didn't shoot that far back then.
Yeah, there was a 3-pointer. There was a 3-pointer back then. So that's what's funny is like I used to be so against you can't really. But it's funny as I grew older, and it was probably a few years ago I started switching a little bit. But like
personally for me, it's more like it's like three. Yeah, if great 3-point shooter, that's great. But it's like it's more of how well can you shoot all around the floor, and that's where, as much as have never been the biggest fan of I've liked LeBron, but I've never been a big fan. I would say the missed man can at least can be able to shoot anywhere on the floor and make a shot. Yeah. I mean, Curry, yes, he can do the same thing, but Curry's because he's smaller, he's likely to get his shot blocked by a lot of guys that are at least a few inches taller than him than LeBron, because obviously LeBron has all that muscle and all that height and just great scoring ability.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And it's and obviously some people would look at Michael Jordan what undersized for what he was, because he was only 6'6", and most players they look to are guys that are 6'8", 6'9", that typical average height you want. But it's Jordan could literally score on anybody, but it seemed, and obviously the thing is he didn't have all the points he accumulated over his career. He didn't have, in spite of having the 3-point line his entire time in the NBA, he hardly shot from three.
Yeah, he wasn't a big 3 shooter.
No, but he could score. But it's the fact that you can. most players seem today just struggle to get 30 points even as 3-point shooters. Like Curry sometimes struggles with that. Well, as Jordan can put 40 on you with just shooting from 2 the entire time.
My question here, and I think this one's a really good one. Who's better? Obviously, we know who's had the better career because this is where the rings come to play. But overall, talent-wise, who's better, Kevin Durant or Steph Curry? I think that's a really good argument.
That is an interesting question.
And obviously, you have to take into their height. Obviously, height takes into account and how those players play, and basically, there's just too many variables that hurt or work for a player. For Curry's case, there's many variables that hurt him because of his height, and just how, and his weight, and basically other aspects of him being able to score and do other stuff. KD obviously feels like 6'10", 6'11".
Yeah,
because it feels like the man's grown.
You're 6'10" shooting guard over here.
Well, and here's why I bring that up, because I don't know who you guys would take, but some people will take Durant, obviously, and some people will take Curry. If you guys pick Durant, based off what you guys have already, or you answered with what I've said, while some people are putting Curry on their Mount Rushmore NBA-wise, we're not even putting Curry on our Mount Rushmore for our lifetime. Because we said Kobe, we said Shaq, and we said LeBron. Yeah. So if we still throw Durant on there, we're saying Curry's off the Mount Rushmore of our lifetime. That's why it's so tough. And
as great as Durant has been, I wouldn't even put him on my Mount Rushmore.
Well, and that's my point here. Is like it's so 50-50, and it's so fun because everybody has a different view. Yes. Again, you can take it by so many different angles. Obviously there's going to be people, but there's so many people that you just won't agree with. Like, it's so hard to find somebody to agree with your same quote-unquote Mount Rushmore, quote-unquote top 5. Because
I think that's the beauty of it, too, is, like, there are so many, like, because of the history of the NBA, too. Even if we just did it as our generation, well, we all have different viewpoints. We all came from different places. We all saw the game differently. Yeah. No two people ever see the game the exact way. And that's what makes the NBA, I think, really unique.
Well, obviously, the majority opinion of the consensus, like, quote-unquote, people would pick Michael Jordan. It's still one of those things, obviously, with us, we never saw Michael play, or at least prime Michael Jordan. We never saw.
Also, we haven't mentioned Tim Duncan. I just want to throw that out there. We haven't even mentioned Duncan or Dirk.
Oh my God.
We haven't even thrown Duncan or Dirk out there, or Garnett, or like any good power forward.
And that's the point here. It's so tough to figure out where they are, and that's where everyone's gonna go. And that's where people bring in the rings, and they'll throw Curry on there because of the rings and everything.
Rings, it's like the problem is obviously because people look at like LeBron as the GOAT. Well, if you bring rings into the equation, you just look at Jordan or Bill Russell. It's like those guys. Well, then you obviously, like you said, it runs to where you have journeymen who have more rings than.
Well, and that's like if you're picking LeBron as your GOAT, you're obviously not worrying about the rings argument.
Yeah. You're looking at other variables of his talent. Though I could probably say that over time, like I'd say where Jordan. Like, and LeBron are, like, for instance, now, like, grows at the same age. Yeah. Jordan was still able to make more, in my opinion, was a more clutch shooter than LeBron. LeBron has a lot of other aspects that make him a great talent, but it's one of those things where if I want to I would rather put the ball in Kobe's hands over LeBron. Like, just because I just don't, like, LeBron can give you all those points, but the problem is when it comes down to it, it doesn't feel like he can really give you the clutch shot you need, because even in the finals where he finally won it in Cleveland, he didn't make the clutch shot that was needed to win. Kyrie did. Despite obviously,
I don't know. We've seen LeBron make enough clutch shots in his life.
But I'm talking about.
I was about to say, I'm not gonna let that argument drives me crazy that he's not clutch, because he's had plenty of clutch moments. Well, I agree. I will absolutely
I've seen more of him.
I'll take a Jordan clutch moment. I'll take Jordan clutchness over LeBron's clutchness. Yes, I agree with that.
I think, I'll let you go ahead and then I'll say my piece.
There's so many instances where he has made that game-winning shot, and while you can say a couple where he missed, I could also bring up a couple where he made it. And why I think people miss, and the one I always love, and I will defend till the day I die, is the finals where he passed up for that wide open shot for Kyle Korver from the corner. If Korver makes that three, we're looking at LeBron James as a genius for finding that open spot, finding the open guy there in the corner, hitting that three, the big shot. They would have won the game, went ahead in the finals instead of going down 2-1, and you're probably looking at another LeBron championship. Korver missed that three, and LeBron makes the basketball IQ play, and does he let that get in his way sometimes? Yes, but that was absolutely the right basketball play. If that's, let's take the Celtics this year. Let's say Jaylen Brown passed that ball to Kyle Korver. Nobody has an issue with it, but it's because it was LeBron. Everybody wanted him to get the tying shot and be the quote-unquote clutch player.
Yeah.
But no, he made the absolute right IQ play to a guy who usually makes that shot. He just missed one shot.
Yeah, to split hairs even further, I'm going to even make this a little bit, I don't know what the best way to put it, but I think my Kobe LeBron answer of who I want, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
If I want a three-pointer, I'm going Kobe. If I need a bucket, just any bucket in the world, I'm going LeBron. Because I know
agree with that.
6'9", he's going to barrel his way in there like we saw him do to Toronto for like 5 straight years. But I think
that the game-winning shot within around 2-pointer. Yeah, I'd probably pick LeBron but it's like you gotta need to tie it or take that winning shot to get them up by 1. Obviously, hitting a 3. Yeah, I'd pick other players. Maybe it's because I've always looked at LeBron's 3-point ability. This is what's kind of hurt him in regards to being a clutch player.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you need a bucket from him, yes, you pick LeBron because LeBron can get you the bucket if you need it. Though I feel like he's regressed a little bit in that category ever since he's been with the Lakers. But that's mainly just the team itself isn't as good. I mean, when Anthony Davis is a saving grace for that team, that mainly shows LeBron just can't carry the load. I mean, obviously he's older, so that's understandable.
Yeah.
But the man can still go. Still go longer than what Jordan could.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing happened to Kobe at the end of his career. I mean, Robert Sacre wasn't going to go out and bail him out or anything like that, where you just saw where it's just like, you felt bad for Kobe because he's just like, man, this guy has nothing. He's out there. Like the 60-point game, I think, was the best example. Where it's like, he just willed himself to a victory with nobody else on. Who was the second best player on that team? Larry Nance Jr.? Who ended up being like the 8th best player on the Cavs team the next year.
Wasn't Paul Gasol gone by then?
Yeah, this is a while.
That was like wasn't that like 14?
Yeah, or something like that.
Wasn't that Kobe's last year? He got the 60.
Yeah, it was his last game.
Yeah, it was against the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, there was just no one
Back when
else.
Gordon Hayward was on the Jazz.
All the conspiracy theory people will always say that the Jazz threw that game because Kobe struggled a little bit in the first half. Jazz got eliminated.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying.
No, it's not you. It's the argument.
But then the Jazz got eliminated from the playoffs at halftime, and then all of a sudden Kobe dropped the 60. So people say the Jazz kind of let him have that last game.
They wouldn't know. I don't think they would have known.
Oh, they would have known.
Yeah,
someone would have told them.
That's something you check, yeah.
Unless you're the Mavs. For some reason, they didn't do that this year. But my favorite, I really wish someone would make a documentary on it because that final night of that 16 season might be the craziest night in the history of the NBA. Because what was opposite of Kobe's game? What was the game on ESPN? Warriors going 73-9. That might be the craziest 9:30 slot we've ever seen in the NBA, where you had two amazing dueling performances going back and forth of who was going to do their amazing thing first. Because when Kobe started out, I remember he missed his first 6 or 7 shots or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's why people are bringing up the point. They
and it was
think
just
the Jazz did that because of how much he struggled when they were quote unquote still playing for something, and all of a sudden at halftime it was like, done.
Yeah, but I mean
they'll always find something. That was like Derek Jeter, his last at bat, he had the walk-off hit against Baltimore. People say I can't remember who was behind the plate at the time. But
it was rigged.
He dropped the throw out at the plate on purpose, so Jeter walked off with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always crazy things, but that night in particular was just one of the most fun experiences I've ever had being just a fan of the NBA. It's like the Mavs game was over an hour early, so I was just like, oh, I guess I'll watch this now.
My all-time favorite last day in all sports, I think, look up, I'm blanking on the year, but it's called, and they come out, I think ESPN did a documentary on it before, it's called Game 162, where there's 5 different baseball scenarios, all finished within 15 minutes of each other that decided so many different playoff hopes.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go back and I want to say it was 2011. It might have been 10, but
11 seems the more likely year because that was because of the oddity of Cardinals making the playoffs.
the Cardinals
despite the
just
fact they shouldn't have.
Yes, no,
A
you're
St. Louis tradition unlike any
Yeah,
other.
it's 2011. It's a good video. I always go back and watch it once. No, it was 162 because the Phillies won their 102nd game because they swept the Braves, let the Cardinals into the playoffs. The Cardinals beat the Phillies in the first round of the playoffs.
Listen, I'm sorry. The rally squirrel had to happen.
That was the rally squirrel year in the year. Yeah, no, it was, and that was a good series.
I would say in regards to the topic of that, what I know would make you more happy is that obviously me at the time, not obviously rooting hard against the Cardinals, but by God, that series was something. That was something, especially that Game 6. Good Lord.
Yes.
That game, I think overall, that Game 6 made that series much more memorable than probably the whole series combined.
Yeah.
Because obviously just how that happened when the Rangers should have put the series away and twice on strike two ended up giving up a tying run and then obviously gave up a walk-off home run.
Yes, David Freese deciding he was going to make it his personal mission and make a Game 7 happen. Still one of the most fun days in Cardinals history I can remember.
I feel like he's I understand he's loved by the Cardinals faithful, but he still feels somewhat underappreciated.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's like all Cardinals players. They will have a few years, and I mean, this happens to everyone. This even happened to Matt Carpenter. You're seeing it happen now, where he just kind of exists, and then you forget about him, and then he comes back and has a monster season, and everyone starts hyping him up. Then he goes away again, and everyone forgets about him again. And then now you're seeing him do it with the Yankees, where he's having a good season. It's like, where did this guy come from?
Wait,
It was
David Freese is still playing baseball.
No, I'm talking about Matt Carpenter now.
Oh,
I mean, I still have a Matt Carpenter hat somewhere that has his
I figured
autograph
you
on
would
it.
because he at least he was a part of the
Yes.
part of the Cardinals.
We had an amazing in-joke among Cardinals fans where he had his own homemade salsa, and every day he had it, he hit a home run. It was the most random joke I've ever seen happen, and it was hilarious because it was just like every time he hit a home run, you'd say, like, must be the salsa.
I'm trying to find. There was some random Matt Carpenter thing I saw the other day, but I had him as like a top 10 power hitter. And I was like,
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was the weirdest list. I'm trying to find it. Someone sent it to me.
I think while you're trying to look.
Also,
for that
Matt
role.
Adams. No one remembers Matt Adams, and that guy was special too. Where it's just, here's another guy you would never think of as this amazing power hitter. He shows up one year and just starts cranking it.
Also, how is your opinion that even though it was announced it was Albert Pujols last season, he was really not getting a farewell tour until probably like right now?
Until Boston, he really didn't get one.
It's like
it makes me upset, but I kind of expected it because I didn't expect Pujols to come back. Once that news broke, that was the happiest I'd been in a while for the Cardinals, where it's just like, I'm really excited about this, and I want to see something cool happen. But I feel like it's a lot harder to do in baseball because, like, what day do you do it? Do you do it the first day of the series? Do you do it? It's not like basketball where it's that one game you have that night to do it.
I think it's one of those things. If it's probably the last time he'll be, like, for just Pujols in general, if it's like the last time he'll be there at that place, then you do something for him.
Okay.
But some of these teams, like they're still going to get him later in the year. So.
I just want to mention something that was funny because I brought up the Boston farewell. Yeah. They had Michael Wacha come out, and you'd be like, your former teammate, Michael Wacha was not a teammate of Albert Pujols. Wacha did not start pitching until 2012. Pujols left in 2011.
They don't.
I know that no one cared, but Cardinals fans just like, that didn't happen, but cool.
Right. The only thing is he's jumped around. Did he ever pitch with the Angels?
I think he did. Wacha after St. Louis, he just kind of went everywhere.
Yeah, that's what he might have been teammates with the Angels, maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. I can't find this Matt Carpenter thing. I did find this funny.
Let's probably just go ahead and let's move on to the NHL.
No, we're gonna sit here for 15 minutes until Andrew finds this one tweet. No, just
he can still search for it.
I
did find this though.
Okay,
we speak about random. At the start of this year, for how good this is kind of crazy for how good the Giants have been recently, like over the last few years. Since Barry Bonds retired, they've had a different opening day starter every single year since 2007. Yeah. Is that like they've won how many World Series throughout those years and everything? But that just blew my mind when I saw it the one day.
Only won 3.
I'll take only. I'll take 3
only
over the last 10 years.
Wait, what?
No, I'm saying I'll take 3 over that span.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying like how many they won. I went 3.
We said only 3.
10, 12, 14. They haven't won one since.
You know, they've only won 7 in LP. No, I'm just joking. I wish the Cardinals could say that, but we have our 2011 trophy and we look at it every day and smile.
We have the 05 and 11.
Yeah. Or 06, the miracle series no one
Same
wanted.
thing, no one cares.
I care. Tampa Bay probably would care if they didn't get beat 7-0 by Colorado. But that's what happened in Game 2.
Well, I don't care.
I remember I called you when they went up 3-0. I was like, "Are you kidding me with this?"
Yeah, I mean, where do you even begin with this? I mean, it starts 2 minutes into the game. Colorado gets a goal with Nichushkin, and I mean, it was off to the races from there. Colorado did what Colorado does. You cannot let them go off. I mean, that cannot be stressed enough. Everyone knows it, but
hurt them right out the gate was they gave up a penalty.
Give up a power play ball.
Power play, and then then one thing it just really kind of shows just the defense for Tampa was just not there at all. Is when a defenseman for Colorado, who's typically not necessarily up where the goal to make a lot of goals, goes the length of the ice and just knocks it right in.
Yeah,
I mean you had a 2-on-1, but still that whenever the goalie is basically being worked to death, there's just nothing. There's nothing that just kind of shows the Tampa just was not ready to play at all. Like I figured, I think all of us figured that when they lost in overtime, they would have been more motivated. But Colorado was just out for blood.
Well, I think Colorado carried that momentum in from that overtime goal.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we've seen this happen in sports in the past, a bad game in a series. You see it in basketball all the time. You've seen it in here. And Tampa Bay's a team. I mean, they got behind 0-2 against the Rangers, and they lived through going at home, get their momentum back. And I think when they went down 2-3-0, it was kind of like, okay, let's just get out of here healthy and get revenge back in Tampa, which we'll get into here a little bit. So, I mean, as a coach, I think he was probably like, guys, we're not even going to watch this film. We're going to throw it away. It was just a bad game, and we're not going to take much from it. And Colorado obviously took advantage of their chances there in this game, but it doesn't help they've been in the box a lot. It's been Tampa Bay's issues is the turnovers and the penalties, and that's what jump-started the first goal in this one was a power play goal. So, I mean, this was just a one bad game, hiccup for Tampa, and they throw it away and forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say it was one of the things we talked last time was the differential in shots for this game in particular. Basically, almost 15.
30 to 16.
Yeah, and these were just the on goal ones. If you count the ones where you don't get it on goal, Colorado probably outshoots them by 30.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how aggressive Colorado was in this particular game, and Tampa was just trying everything they could to prevent goals. Obviously did a horrible job at that, but they just were not right. Also, once again, they had a turnover problem. What you mentioned last time. They kept turning the puck over in their own part of the ice. That's what killed them.
The other thing I want to mention, kind of looking at some of the stats here, I mean, Tampa Bay out-hit them 57-46. They won 2 more face-offs than them. The penalty minutes, I mean, a 2-minute difference, still a problem for Tampa. But getting outshot 30 to 16, you're never going to win with that.
I mean, they on regards to hits, they did the same style that almost every other team's tried to do is out-hit them and figure that stopped them, but obviously didn't.
Yeah, the thing for me is that, and I know I said this to you, is this feels like watching St. Louis play Colorado the first time, where it kind of turned into Vasilevsky versus the entire Avalanche team, because when your defense just kind of gets somehow blown back on a 2-1 or a 2-on-1 and then becomes a 2-on-none, what is Vasilevsky supposed to do? He can't block 2 guys at the same time. He's not going to tear himself in half doing that. And, I mean, it just continued to pour on and pour on. I mean, Makar gets 2, Nichushkin gets 2, Manson gets 1, Burakovsky gets 1, Helm gets 1.
I will say in regards to a couple of those goals, those were
some of those were just insane.
Yeah, and then obviously you had a couple that were goalie was not. He just missed it. He missed the block, and then the other ones, it's like he can't control that.
Yeah, I would say there were 3 or 4 of them where I just looked at it as like no goalie could stop that. You can't stop some of the passing. Colorado just has some of the most insane, fast-paced offensive sets that I've ever seen a team run in hockey. And when Vasilevsky, who's one of the, he was the Conn Smythe last year. He was the Finals MVP, I guess so to say. And when he gives up the most goals he's ever given up in a game, you're doing something right, clearly. But you get to Game 3, and it's the exact opposite. It's 6-2 Tampa Bay. And the big reason right here is, I would say, is this 39-34 on shots. I know this is something we talked about after game 1. If you can get it within 10, you have a chance. They got it within 5, and they had a pretty good chance, and they won.
Yeah, this is the benefit of going home. You get your crowd behind you. You feel rejuvenated. It's a new series for them. Again, we always talk about it in every sport. It's really not a series until a road team wins, and that's the same thing. And that's why I think this series is still going 7 games. I think. I mean, it's going to come down to a bunch of home games, and who's a team that's going to be able to find a win on the road. Obviously, Tampa Bay figures something out here. Again, they threw game 2 out the window. It was a quick forget about, go back home, jump out the way you need to. They killed a couple penalty. I think they killed a penalty before that power play goal, the first one Colorado got. But even on that, it was a good drawn up play there by Colorado, and Tampa Bay answered it right away. Got the lead by the end of the period and took full advantage. But no, it was a fun game to watch, and I mean, credit for Tampa Bay doing what they had to do. And again, they were more physical in this one as well. You see it within the hits again. So Tampa Bay did what they had to do, and I expect that in Game 4 as well.
And also the differential in shots is within 5.
Yes.
So that's where it's like if it was basically like the Game 2, that would I think Tampa doesn't even get 6. They probably maybe get 3 or maybe 4 points. Probably just subtract 2.
Yeah.
But I think the result wouldn't have been much different. The Tampa would still win, but it's like obviously Tampa basically almost matching them in shots is what helps because everything else they've done a better
Tampa's
job with.
outdone them in nearly everything else. They've outworked them. It's just shooting.
It's just offense is what's hurt them, and luckily this game I think is going to rejuvenate them and probably help them going into Game 4.
Well, that's credit to Colorado's defense. That's where it's at. But I think, and my math could be off, but I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay had more shots in this game than they had in the first 2 games combined. If I remember correctly, I think they only had 19 in Game 1, and then they had 16 in Game 2.
Yeah, so it'd be just about the same.
Yeah, so,
my
my math's
I'll
off.
look that
Sorry,
up.
Math's hard.
Gosh dang it,
But-
Andrew. Off by 1.
But either way, yeah, you get my point. It's
Yeah.
pretty close.
It is.
So that's something to take note of here. And they again, I think part of it is just going home and getting your crowd behind you. It resurfaces things.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Another thing to talk about, Kemper getting pulled after his 5-2, and I just kind of want to list off some series firsts here. First time all postseason Colorado's been beaten on the road. First time Tampa's had a power play goal this series. We got backup goalie in for Colorado. You bring Francouz in, and that was a bit interesting because I think if Colorado stays with him, they might have a better chance because it looks like Tampa Bay has Kemper figured out, at least for now. I mean, that can obviously change depending on the game. You could say the same thing about Vasilevsky, but I think Colorado made the switch, and I actually liked it because I think he can be the better goalie at times. It's one of those weird, you bring him in, get some momentum, after he comes in, you only get beat 1-0. And so, maybe they look to that. If things get bad again early in Game 4, you make that switch and possibly rally.
Yeah, and a lot of it will be on how good that defense is, too. Like you guys mentioned, Tampa Bay gave up a lot of goals that you can't really blame on the goalie, and that goes back to defense as well. So Colorado lives off that quickness and everything, and they seemed a little bit like a step off or something in this game.
Yeah.
I will, in regards to, I know you said that they had more shots in this. In actuality, they had just 5 more shots combined for Game 1 and Game 2. So they almost equaled their shots.
They must have had a lot more shots in Game 1 than I thought.
Yeah, they just probably a few more.
How much was it?
They had 23 in Game 1 and then 16. So
I didn't think that hit 20.
But the fact that Tampa was able to pretty much match the last 2 games combined is very helpful.
It is.
But what's funny is you said 39.
And that's what Colorado
That's what Colorado
That
got.
shows how much they struggled in shots those first 2 games.
Yeah. But that moves us into predicting what will happen tomorrow. Colorado, Tampa Bay, Game 4, 7 o'clock. Colorado is favored in this one, a 6 for the over-under. Going to be interesting to see what happens here. Burakovsky not going to play for the Avs still. And Nikita Kucherov is a day-to-day. So is Braden Point for the Bolts. Interesting to see. Kucherov did get injured late in the game Monday night. So this is going to be a bit of a battle here. I mean, you're down 2 of your best players potentially if you're Tampa. Does that even hinder them at all with how deep they are?
Well, it'll definitely hinder them a little bit at least, whether they play or not, because they're obviously not 100%. And I mean, you can be as deep as you want, but if you're still missing two of your better players, it's obviously going to take a toll. Was Kucherov, though, I think he came back and played, right? So
I think he went to the bench because he didn't even come out for the star celebration. He didn't come out to be the second star.
Who am I thinking of that went to the bench, was really hurt, and then he came back in the game last night?
I don't know. That did I don't remember.
I can't remember which guy. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, so I could be wrong. I thought it was him, so I thought, okay, he'll probably for sure play in Game 4, but obviously if that was somebody else, then he might not play.
Yeah, I think they said they expect him to play, but I mean, you can never know at this point.
Well, and what's funny about hockey is they always hide things, meaning like, they'll call it an upper body injury, which could mean a shoulder injury, could mean a concussion, could mean a rib, and then they call it a lower body injury, which could be your ankle, could be your knee, could be a toe. So you never really know what the hockey injury is.
Yeah. But going into it, I guess the main question is, can Colorado go up 3-1 and deliver not necessarily the kill shot, but get pretty close to wounding Tampa Bay and ending this thing?
I mean, they can. It's just a matter of are they going to be able to? I think if they're obviously able to score like they can, I think they could give Tampa a run for their money. But it's in Tampa, so that's going to be a difficult task already because that's obviously Tampa lives at home. So I know they've lost at home in the last few series a couple times, but still something that's really something that's still at a disadvantage, and I think Tampa will probably take momentum into it. But you never know with how Colorado will be. You don't know how their offense is going to, if they're going to just swing out like they usually do or have a bit of a blunder that they did. It's like, obviously they're not having issues getting shots on goals. The issue is just getting in the net. So I know that's every team's issue for the most part, but still it was especially obvious that Tampa was playing much better. Goalie and that defense played better, but they still give up way too many shots. But I think in the end of the day, I think the series will be tied. I think it's going to be one of those things where if a road team can get a victory on the road, that will seal the deal for the series. But I think until then it's going to be home to home until they get to Game 7.
Yeah, no, I'm going to pick Tampa Bay here. I think they even the series at home. They've been one of the best home teams here, probably with Colorado. So I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to get it done. Colorado obviously struggled last game. That's one of those throwaway games as well. I expect a lot closer. We haven't obviously had a close game here since Game 1. So I expect it, I'm not going to say overtime, but I expect it to be closer to Game 1, back and forth all the way. But here's my thing, though. Tampa Bay, they've trailed all 3 games. Like, Colorado's got the first goal in all 3 games. So Tampa Bay's need to find a way to get out to a quicker start. And I'm not saying go out and score in 2 minutes, but they need to find a way to hold Colorado off and find a way to actually be able to have comfortable and get out to a quick start and defend the lead from the beginning. So that's something I want to see Tampa Bay do going ahead to Game 4.
Because obviously with Colorado obviously getting the goal in every game, that's basically where everyone's having to play catch up with them, and you do not want to play catch up with the Avalanche. That's asking a lot to do. I mean, has Tampa done it? They did it in Game 1. They managed to tie it and send it to overtime, and they were able to win Game 3, but you still don't want to get into that issue again. So you want to get the first goal, first couple of goals to be exact.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would rather just keep scoring all the goals. But,
well, obviously.
Obviously.
I'm not a hockey expert, but I am saying the team with the most goals might win the game.
I mean, out of all 3 of us in the room, you guys are more hockey experts than I am, though it's obvious I pay attention more to hockey than I do basketball, a little bit more.
It's okay. Whatever. Everyone has their own sports, and
it's
that's
like,
what makes it great.
The thing is, it's like I'm more fresh to hockey versus the two of you. It's like you've been watching hockey growing up. You've obviously being in Philly, watching the Flyers.
I missed the good Flyers.
But for me, I didn't get into it until 2018, and I made myself a Caps fan because I'm a masochist apparently.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say that, but if you want to go ahead and imply that to yourself, that is a-okay.
Well, I mean, I started rooting for them when they won a champion. It's like the season I decided to watch hockey, they win a championship. So it's like, oh, at least I'm not suffering out the gate.
Yeah, you got your one title for your entire lifetime. Hope you enjoyed it.
I've got my one championships a lifetime with the Royals and Chiefs. I think I'm pretty happy right now.
There you go. Say that, but in 40 years from now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You never know.
careful what you say. Flyers
Yeah.
haven't won since '75.
Yeah.
Sixers haven't won since '83.
Yeah.
So careful what you say.
And Phillies haven't won
Always
since
be
09.
careful. Yeah, always be careful
Yeah.
what you wish
Oh,
for.
was it-
Phillies were 08, Eagles
Yeah.
were 17. So
At least you
I
got to see
I got
some
Villanova. Villanova gave me two.
There you go.
And this man only has the Blues and the Cardinals.
And the Mavs. I do have the. I did get to see Dirk host trophy. So
See, everybody always forgets about college though. You've had some good OU years.
exactly. We had the year with Buddy Hield and the year with Trey Young and
that
the
year
year
with
with
Trae Young.
Blake Griffin.
That
Well, how
year
did Buddy
Trae
Hield
Young
end?
didn't really turn out
That's
as well.
But I think Tampa gets it done. Like I said, my strategy of Tampa every time. Going to continue to roll with it until the end of the season, regardless of whether they win or lose. But I think it'll be a really fun
Fan's still
one.
going to pick Tampa even after
I'm going
the
to pick
series,
Tampa in 9 if they get beat in 7. I'm just going to become a Phoenix fan and be like, listen, Tampa in 14.
There you go.
It's happening. I think Tampa will come out and play well. They'll continue to build off the momentum. I'm going to take the over on this one. There's no way this gets like 5 goals or under. I just can't see that with how good both of these offenses are. This is going to be a really fun one. I'm interested to see if Colorado gets into a little bit of trouble. Do they make the goalie switch again? Do they not? Who comes back from injuries in this game? I know Cogliano, he should play. He was day-to-day listed here technically, but I think he'll play. I would be shocked if Kucherov doesn't play. The way how that Game 3 ended with the fight and everything, I think he wants to come out there and prove a point. So I think Tampa Bay takes it, and we have a 2-2 series going back to Colorado.
Let's hope so. Nothing's better than a long series.
Listen,
I mean, with
I agree.
hockey, we all want the series to go long because it's hockey.
we need it to go to 9 games.
That's
We
what
need to find a way at Commissioner Bettman.
I think hockey's like the one sport where I want for me, like it's like for other playoffs, it's like the NBA like the conference finals and the NBA finals, and then same thing with MLB. I don't mind if those series go on, but the other one's got to be pretty quick. Well, unless the series just turns out really good where both teams are going at it, that's one thing. But it's like NBA, it's like I want every series done as quick as possible, and then we get to the good stuff. Though obviously I'd say overall the NBA playoffs was pretty solid. Though obviously you had issues where teams were just getting blown out all the time. But NHL hockey, I don't mind if it takes like 2 months to get done. It's so good.
Well, it does. I mean, they like to
So
start all the
good.
games out. So.
Yeah. I for one, enjoy the Mavs blowing out opponents, but I don't know about you guys.
Honestly, the NBA had it down here in my eyes in playoffs. There was too many blowouts for me.
Yeah, that's the downside to it. The games that were close actually were pretty good.
What's funny, I was talking about this with somebody else. For the teams that make the championship, I never really thought about it till recently. They really don't get any time off. Like,
No, you
think
really
about it,
don't.
Like the Warriors and Celtics, they both go down to the end of June. They'll be right back at it probably in
October.
the season starts in October, but even the month before
Yeah.
that, September, they'll have to be
Yeah.
back at camp. You look
They
at baseball.
got 2 months off,
Yeah,
you know.
You look at baseball. World Series ends the beginning of November. Whoever the 2 teams are this year, they'll be right back at it in the beginning of February. Like, I mean, obviously you want to. I'm not saying you don't want. Like,
I think
what's
personally,
crazy is the time. I mean, and again, look at football. Super Bowl's in February. They just got done their OTAs. It's like 3 months.
is Expedition is October Expedition, or is they actually start regular season?
So they start. So they'll do exhibition probably. Or are you talking about NBA or NHL?
NBA.
I think NBA does it. Exhibition's about mid-October, and I think the regular season usually starts right around Halloween.
I think I saw this year regular
They going early?
opening day is going to be like October 18th or something.
Wow,
for
maybe
the
they're going
NBA.
early this year. I always
Especially
like-
the thing I'm hearing, especially with Thursday night football being moved to prime, you might see TNT try to compete a little bit more on Thursdays.
Okay, so maybe they are starting early this year. I just know I went to the Sixers home opener, 2013 maybe it was on Halloween.
Yeah.
So I always remember that and pinpoint that around the start
Personally
date.
for
But they
me-
they very well might have moved it up.
Personally,
Yeah.
for me, I'd rather the NBA start either mid-November or start in December, because that way you give players more time off. You don't get rid of the 82 games because their season's already spread out enough already. So it's like they still have to. It's like obviously you don't change the amount of games they play, but move it back, make their off season a little longer. That way players can rest up better, and maybe you get some of those players that were injured that might not be able to play at the start might get a chance to. I mean, that's personally for me, but obviously the NBA is going to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I agree. I'm never in favor of getting rid of games because I love watching as many games
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah.
But And here's why it's kind of hard to remember when they started because it's been switching the last few years with COVID and everything. The year after COVID season, so the year they played 72 and started around Christmas, I didn't hate that schedule. I mean, again, I'm not ever going to say get rid of 10 games because I'd rather watch. I know people hate the regular season, but I'm always in favor of watching games. But that, and even if they found a way to start around December, I didn't hate that. I mean, yeah, as an NBA fan, you're like, okay, just give me the season. But you're going to say that whether the season starts in October or December. So
it's mainly for me because it feels like it feels like the season just like is too like when it starts in October and then ends like here in June. That is a long. That's just for me. It's a little too long. Maybe shorten that to where they start around late November. That might help. I know it's like less than it's like a month later, but I think it would. For me, it would not make the season feel as dragged out.
Well, my only counter to that, because I've talked about this with people before, is why is that any different, though, than any other sport if you think about it? Like, if you think about it, football is going from end of August all the way to February. Baseball is going from March to all the way to November.
For me, it's more
Hockey's
like the
doing
amount.
the
It's
same
because
thing.
they're playing a lot of games. Well, as football, it's like you only play once a week, so that's where you may. And obviously, there are seasons like you play. Yeah, for NFL, it's like 18 weeks, and then you got to deal with playoffs. And then for football, you play 12 games, but obviously you have bye weeks to give teams time to rest, also to prepare for future opponents, where it's like, because you're not getting as many games, and you're always building up to anticipation each week. That's where that's because it's like they're not playing a bunch of games. Well, as with basketball and baseball and NHL, you're playing, obviously with MLB, you're playing 162 games, and you don't get to stop. You're lucky if you even get a day or two off of playing because you're always constantly traveling. Because you get done with a home series, you got to play like 2 road series in a row. So it's like for me, it's really hard with baseball because you got to play. It's like baseball's kind of a weird situation where I don't know how to debate that about how many games you play because. The 162 is fine with me, because personally, it's like when you think about it, it's like you take away playoffs, they're only playing like 5 months, so it's not really a long time. While as the NBA, it feels like it's dragged out to 9. That's where, and same thing with the NHL, it feels like it's almost dragged out to 3/4 of the year. Yeah. While as MLB you take away the playoffs because obviously that goes into October, you're only playing about 5 months. So that's kind of a weird. I don't really know what to make of that argument.
Well, yeah, I just want because it is all in the end all pretty close, and here's the thing: people view it, and I always disagree with this. And I'm not saying you guys say it, but I've heard, they play 162, they play 82 games, game 10 doesn't matter. Well, I disagree with that.
For baseball, every game matters.
I mean, every sport, every game matters. People say that like, they're going to have 100
games
left.
Matter.
Well, it all depends on your schedule. Like, again, I know my team the best, so I'm going to compare them. The Phillies, they've already played 12 games against the Mets. That means they only have 7 left this year. Yeah. So all those games, and the Phillies, they did terrible against the Mets already. Mm-hmm. And you look at them, they're 8 games back in the division now. So you don't have as much ground now to make up. That's why, obviously, 2020 vision is the game against the Mets in April more important than the game in September? Obviously not, because then there's only 10 games left. Yeah. But those series back in April and May still matter. Mm-hmm. Like, it drives me crazy when I hear, this game doesn't matter today because
it's like the only people who make that argument is if they know their team isn't going to go anywhere. But it's like, but thing is, you never know with how teams turn out. You've had teams no one saw coming. All of a sudden, they make a playoff run, or at least make a run to try to make the playoffs. So it's like every game, regardless of the sport, it matters. Every game matters. It might seem to you at the time, it might not matter because you're thinking, well, it might not come back to bite us, or you think you're not going to compete at all. Yeah. That's where I can understand why some people say that. But it's like, I look at it like that real. It's like depending. Obviously, it's like, and this is just professional. College is a different beast altogether, different thing altogether, because sometimes certain games don't necessarily matter, but some games really do. Just depends on how you look at it. Mm-hmm. But even though that's a different discussion, obviously with professional, depending on how you view your team, every game matters because let's say you don't win like let's say you did horrible in a series, like you said, Phillies did horrible against the Mets early on. Those games that they did, those games they lost could come back to bite them if they end up missing by a couple of games.
No, exactly.
So that's where everything always matters, regardless of it.
I agree.
But well,
Speaking of baseball,
yeah. It's just, I feel like we're about to run that conversation a little too long. So
yeah, I mean, I'm
I know
I'm just sitting here minding my own business. I'll let you two talk it out however long you want to go. I'll just be sitting here looking at this bracket for 15 minutes. College World Series going on. A lot of craziness has happened. The battle of every ranked team losing on day one and technically day two.
It's insane.
Got to be one of the craziest things. Notre Dame upsetting Texas, Oklahoma upsetting A&M, Arkansas just destroying Stanford, and Ole Miss upsetting Auburn. So
and currently,
currently Arkansas 1-0 lead. Yeah,
I'm watching. I'm have the game.
you got it on your game cast there.
Yeah,
and then getting into the elimination, the game I wanted to see, we got it. Texas A&M beats Texas 10-2.
just destroys them.
I was excited about this. I wanted to see those two play, mainly because I wanted to see one of those two fan bases suffer, but, that's just me. And then Auburn upsetting Stanford. Stanford really kind of showed that they're good, obviously. They're talented, but this is the same complaint I'd had with them since about the Texas State game in the regional. They just can't win those big moments. They can survive them, but they can't win them when they have to.
It's like it seems like this postseason. While obviously you're a really good team at the moment of time of your making it to the World Series. Obviously, Stanford, they were number 2 in the nation. Well, got the 2 spot. Mm-hmm. So obviously they're a good team and played really well. But it's one of those things where even in their own regional and then going into supers, they kind of struggled. Like aspects of their hitting, while their hitting was. Obviously, the way they somehow the games they lost, they obviously didn't. Their hitting didn't show up in the World Series, but their hitting was really solid. It was their pitching that was really kind of hurting them a little bit, and then slight defensive problems here and there. But mostly, they were still a really great team. Just obviously, they ran into a really good Arkansas. Obviously, with the way this World Series turned out, ran into a really good Arkansas team that obviously destroyed them, and then Auburn just finally putting them out of their misery.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I mean, it's been – obviously, you've had a lot of upsets and everything, but overall, I feel like it's been a pretty disappointing Omaha. Like, it's been a lot of blowouts. Like, I know A&M ended up making it closer, but OU basically blew them out the whole game, as you mentioned, Connor. Arkansas crushed Stanford. Ole Miss crushed Arkansas. I mean, that was 13-2, 13-3 at one point, something like that, before Arkansas got a couple back. I think it was even in the ninth, so there's some garbage time runs. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to see much because I was working, but I think A&M went up 5-0, so they're pretty much in control of that game the whole time.
Notre Dame kind of made it interesting in the 8th today, but they couldn't really get anything going.
Notre Dame's issue is they just they struggled. Their hitting and just trying to get runs in really hurt them. A&M just seemed to really be in control of that entire game. Yeah. And obviously you beat up your rival early on and gave you momentum going in against Notre Dame, who was already a tough opponent to beat. But obviously didn't happen. Notre Dame wasn't able to do much. A&M controlled. That's the A&M team I was expecting to really, when they played OU the first time, that's who I was kind of expecting to really control the game. But obviously A&M's pitching and making some defensive mistakes really didn't help them. And also, OU just hit really well.
I'll say, if OU wants to put 13 on A&M again tomorrow, I'll gladly appreciate it.
So more likely, I think, will happen with that one. I think A&M will be playing much better, and I think that will probably amount to they might go to a necessary game, possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah. I think the 2 best games so far, I'd have to go OU pulled away late, but I'd say OU Notre Dame was pretty good. I think OU jumped out the 2-0. Notre Dame got one back. OU scored again, and they kind of took control after that.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, if we're going off score-wise, we haven't been able to watch any of it. I'll probably have to go back and restart it when I get home. But Arkansas, Auburn, obviously 1-0 in the third. So, I mean, that's obviously sounds like it's been good. So that's one. I mean, I'll have to go back and watch a little bit of it. So I think those 2 early on would be the favorites. I will say it's kind of funny. So someone told me at the start of this, when we got to this part, Texas A&M was going to lose the first game and then win the whole thing.
Who told you that?
It was Alex Vikarski, the coach.
There you go.
Soccer coach.
Okay, well, this actually wouldn't make this would actually make sense because the last time OU went to Omaha, they beat South Carolina game 1 and then got eliminated by them. South Carolina won the whole thing. So this wouldn't be the first. This would actually be the second time in a row this happened to OU in Omaha.
That's if that happens because I'm not as much. I mean, I think A&M will. I would want to say they'll win, but I don't. If they go to a necessary game, that's where I would favor OU, because it feels like when OU gets himself in a necessary game, whether they're having to come through a loser's side or go through the winner's bracket, it seems like they just, when it comes to a elimination game, they're just like, we're not gonna lose.
Yeah.
So that's where I think that would favor them more. But obviously, A&M is playing better. I mean, you're calling, like I said, you came off beating your big brother and just basically beat them over the head with the bats, and then you handled a good Notre Dame team who was underappreciated. It felt like they were underappreciated by the committee, so it's just one of those things where you just don't know what A&M team you're going to get, because you'll get one where they'll pitch well and they'll hit, or they'll pitch well and then they'll hit well. Then you'll either get one or the other, or they'll just do what they did against OU, where their pitching struggle while their hitting didn't really suffer as much. It obviously showed it wasn't enough to win that first game. So it's obviously a matter of what's going to happen with that one.
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
Right. I was going to say, well, I mean, you can go ahead, because I was just going to get ready to get to the picks part. But
That's I was going to get my picks. So.
Yeah, I was about to say, if we want to call a pick on this Arkansas-Auburn game, I mean, it's only the top of the third.
Arkansas.
Arkansas's
I think we all had Arkansas winning.
It's just a matter of how they're going to do against Ole Miss if they get there.
Yeah, and that's going to be my next one, is Arkansas-Ole Miss.
I think
I mean, this is going to be an interesting game. Ole Miss having the 13-5 win earlier. Can Arkansas win back-to-back and make it to the finals?
They can. They've shown they can compete with anybody, and obviously they've played better overall. I'd say out of all the teams, they've had a really good run than most teams. Obviously, Ole Miss coming out of nowhere to kind of really get to the position where they're at. But they could easily take 2 games from Ole Miss and get to the finals. But it's just a matter of will they do it? I don't know. I have faith in they can do it. Just a matter of, is it going to happen? Just their pitching's got to show up, which it can happen, because they did it against Stanford. And so far their pitching has shown up against Auburn. It's just a matter of how long can they hold off. That's where you need the bats to come in. And they have a great hitting core. Heck, some of those guys are still going to be around next year.
Yeah.
They're going to be even more deadlier than this year. So I don't know. It's really hard, but I think just the way Ole Miss has played, and just the way Ole Miss has played so far, I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss makes it all the way. I probably would pick them in a necessary game.
Okay.
I'm going to start with, because I always love making fun of the SEC haters, because for some reason they like to trash on the SEC, even though they are the best.
The SEC is a terrible conference. They have 4 teams in.
Well, I would say for everyone making fun of the SEC, because Tennessee got eliminated early.
I mean,
let's just remember that 4 of the 5 remaining teams are SEC teams, and in 2 years it would probably be all 5 SEC teams, maybe 3 years depending on when they actually make the switch.
Yeah.
But just wanted to throw that out there. And I'm not even an SEC fan. I'm just tired of listening to all the hate for no reason.
Yeah. It's like, for me,
anyway,
it's like for baseball, it's weird why people were hating on that. It's because, like, they have really great baseball programs. So it's like, I've really never understood that. I understand your quote unquote best teams are not really. I mean, Auburn obviously had a regional, but it's like, it's weird how everyone looked at A&M and said, oh, they're not that great. It's like, they're number 5 for a reason. They
look for the argument that favors them. So they look at Tennessee getting eliminated early. They look at Florida getting knocked out in their regional. And I think there's another. I think there's another. I think there was another host SEC team that got eliminated. I can't remember, but Vandy also did get eliminated.
But
anyway, so no, my picks here is I think Arkansas holds on for the win against Auburn. I think Arkansas beats Ole Miss twice. I think they're a more complete team. They had a hiccup there in round 2.
2-0
but
Arkansas.
It's going to be their bats will wake up, and their pitching's not going to get up to 13 runs again. I don't think so. And then I don't know what to do at the top, because
no one does. It's the weird bracket.
Here's the thing. It's so tough to pick against the number 5. I truly believe this, though, and this is where I don't know where to pick yet. I think Oklahoma needs game 1. I don't if Texas A&M takes game 1, I think they're going to win the if necessary game as well. I'm a believer in that kind of situation. I think the better team will take that type of game. I think OU needs to ride their win streak right now and how hot they have been since the Big 12 playoffs and everything. I can't remember who they beat in the Super Regional.
OU beat Virginia Tech.
Virginia
That's
Tech
right, yeah.
just didn't really show
So
up.
I mean, was that a 2 game?
That's
It was
3
three.
It was
games.
3 games. Okay.
'Cause,
OU does they win game 1, they get blown out game 2, they come back blow out game 3.
So I don't know, because they've proven to have their backs against the wall there, obviously. But I don't know. Number 5 team, I think, if they take that first game, I'd expect them to take the second game as well there. I think they obviously got woken up by Oklahoma that first game. I mean, what was it, 13-2 at one point?
Yeah, or
13-1?
13 is something crazy.
It was double digits at
Yeah,
some
it was
point,
double
I think.
digits.
And A&M tried to make it
So
interesting.
I expect more out of Texas A&M here. What I don't know, and obviously you know better than I would, Cade, as an OU fan, if it favors Oklahoma to get into a giant home run fest back and forth, or if a pitching duel would be better for them. For me, as a outsider, I guess you could say, I would think a high-scoring game favors OU better. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Here's the deal with Oklahoma this is my one worry. If Oklahoma, they've got 2 options if they want to go to the mound, because they're not going to throw. They've thrown Michael before, Trevin Michael, their closer, as a starter before. They did that game 7 against Florida. They're not going to do that because he's had to come out and finish. He had to come out and throw 2 2/3 against A&M the first time. Had to come out and throw 2 innings against Notre Dame. I don't think that's an option. David Sandlin is the guy I'm worried about because he came in against Texas A&M as a relief pitcher, threw 2/3 of an inning, gave up 4 runs. He struggled mightily against A&M. He also struggled mightily against Virginia Tech. That's the game OU got beat 14-8. He has not pitched well. I think he also was the loss to Florida, too, in the regional. He has not been the guy. So do you go back to Jake Bennett, who A&M has already seen, or what do you do? Do you let your bullpen handle this because your bullpen is consisted of one guy, Trevin Michael, or what do you do here? Because I would love to see Bennett get saved for game 1 of the championship series, but you got to get there first. So I think a low-scoring game tells me Sandlin's playing phenomenal if they go to him. I think a high-scoring game would be fine by me. Either way Oklahoma plays it, they're going to have a chance, but it's going to come down to, can they not get in their own head? This is something I've been worried about them. You saw it against Texas A&M. You saw it against Notre Dame. When OU gets that lead, everything starts to get tight. They start to make a few mistakes. They start to do things they shouldn't do. And I don't know what has happened, what has gotten into their head in the last few innings of both the A&M and Notre Dame games, but something late happens where they start to think about getting this game done with and not playing the game itself. So I think if OU can do what they do, I like them to win this game, just knock A&M out of the way and go to the championship series. I think they can do it. That's what I'm going to pick. But it would not surprise me if Texas A&M took this to a game 7.
Just an update on Arkansas. Arkansas just got 2 more runs.
Okay, so they're up 4-0 now. I think Oklahoma will get the job done, but I am highly worried. This is why I did not want to play Texas A&M again. If we got Notre Dame, I think OU could have rolled them. Notre Dame looks like they're starting to run out of gas anyway. But this is where I get worried for Oklahoma. I think they're going to win. They've found a way every single time with their back against the wall. They're incredibly clutch this year, but A&M is equally clutch. So it's going to be hard. I like Oklahoma, but I'm incredibly scared for them.
So
Not gonna lie,
you're picking them to win.
I'm picking them to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 12-11. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I'm not going to lie to you. You swayed me to the A&M side.
Okay.
You sound a little worried about the bullpen there.
I am worried because the Chaz Martinez experience exists. That guy is like he'll either come out and throw like an immaculate inning, it feels like, or he'll give up 18 runs.
No. And I understand that. Trust me, I understand being worried.
We have no bullpen, and that worries the heck out of me.
I'm just saying here that I was expecting you to sway me to the OU side. But you sound worried about the bullpen.
I honestly
You sound worried about being in your own head, which once you get in your own head is when the offense is going to struggle because they're worried.
Yes.
They're worried about too much other stuff. So I'm going to lean towards A&M, and I didn't get Texas A&M. I'm going A&M Arkansas in the College World Series final.
I honestly don't blame. I'm going to trust my team. I'm going to ride or die with them. I've done it before this year, except the Virginia Tech series. I'm going to trust them. but I am not feeling confident about it. That's how I'll describe it.
So
Hey, I like
you,
the honesty.
like, so are you picking them to win that first game?
I'm picking them to win that first game and get out of it. If it goes to a Game 7, I would probably pick A&M, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think because I was iffy, and I actually probably would have said, "Oh, it's going to somehow pull out of and win the necessary game," but you're basically swaying me to pick A&M to win
Good.
both.
My magic is working. Good. I
But
don't like OU.
I say you're swaying me, but I'm going to pick OU to win the necessary game.
Okay. It's just
the way OU's played.
it's just concerning because they threw the stat out, so they can't jinx it. They already threw the stat out. The announcer's jinx is already at play. OU has only gone 2-0 in Omaha 3 times. 1951, 1994, and this year. OU's baseball championships, 1951, 1994. So theoretically, this would be a championship run.
Well, then why are we even covering it? They already won.
Exactly. I mean, I wish we could do that. If I could just declare OU champions right now, I'd do it. Get out of here. But I am incredibly worried with how this game is going to go because I know what A&M can do. We've seen it in 3 different games already. High explosive offense. It's just going to be a matter of who does OU start. Because if they go out and start Bennett again, it wouldn't surprise me if he mows them down a second time. It really wouldn't. He's been on fire, so has Cade Horton. We've seen both of those two play great. If Sandlin can step up, they call him the Sandman for a reason. If he can step up again and get back to where he is, because we've seen him be clutch before. He was in the Big 12 tournament. If he can come out and play well again, Oklahoma could easily take this game from A&M. This would be the third pitcher, and then you'd be set to go for the championship. But if they start to struggle and they don't want to do some weird move, Oklahoma's going to start throwing out some arms we haven't seen in over a month, and that's where things get – we saw that with Notre Dame. They threw out, I can't remember his name, or Godman in the 7th inning, who hadn't pitched since the Texas Tech series. He hadn't pitched in a month. He came out, and he was really shaky. He got the outs because Notre Dame hit some lasers right to people, but he was a little shaky.
I will say this. The advantage – that Oklahoma does have, obviously, is A&M's basically been playing every day at this point.
Yes.
So A&M's pitching.
But A&M's starter pitcher went full 7 innings today, too, so they barely had to use their bullpen.
Well, yeah, no, I'm saying, so their starters are going to be more worn down a little bit. So their guy that went 7 innings, they obviously isn't going to pitch tomorrow, and he's probably, honestly, unlikely to pitch in an if necessary game as well because that would only be 1 day or it'd be 2 days. No, it'd be 1 day rest going into that June 23rd game, so that'd be on Thursday. So that is the advantage OU's had is they've been off once that game happens, they've been off the last 3 days. Mm-hmm. So they basically have a fresh rotation in terms of that.
Just a little small update. Auburn did switch pitchers. They no longer have their starter in.
Okay. So Arkansas probably getting ready to start beating on them, it sounds like.
Well, more than likely, it's currently a 3-1 count with 2 outs.
Yeah. But that is how I feel about that. I hope Oklahoma could win. I want to see it happen, but, man, I really don't know.
You just walked them.
I really do not know. But we have one more thing to talk about. I don't know why ESPN popped up on there, but you know what? It's NBA draft time.
Well, it's because you still have that one open.
Connor, don't correct me with facts and logic. I'm trying to make a joke here. But NBA draft is Thursday night, 7 o'clock ABC and ESPN. First time, and I think ever it's going to be on ABC, if I remember hearing that correctly.
They had it last year on ABC.
Did they?
Yeah, I thought they did.
I don't remember if they did. I don't even remember last year's draft
at all. ESPN, ABC, same thing nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting close.
For the most part, pretty much is.
Pretty much. But looking here, this is ESPN's best available. They've got Chet Holmgren, number 1, Jabari Smith, 2, Paolo Banchero, 3. The 3 power forwards, pretty much, one of them is going to be picked because the Orlando Magic have the number 1 pick, Oklahoma City number 2, Houston number 3. I always say it, and I've heard other people say it. It's always a funny joke. The real draft doesn't start till Sacramento picks.
Yep.
Because you don't know what they're going to do.
Because they'll always mess it up.
The ultimate wild card, and then we have the little picks by team here. You can pick a team, tells you what they need and what picks they have. So ESPN going all out with draft coverage, as they usually do. But, Andrew, I know you said you had a take earlier, so now is the time. Whatever take you had, go for it.
I said I'm afraid the Thunder are going to make a mistake. Yeah. And I'm not a Thunder fan. I'm a Sixers fan, as people should know by now.
Yeah.
So I wish Thunder nothing but the best.
But
they're going to take Chet.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a mistake.
You think so?
Probably.
And listen, I know I'm no expert or anything on ESPN or anything, and they obviously have him ranked number 1. But and here's I will say it, and I haven't finished yet. I love draft time. Any sport, I love drafts. I create my own little fun mock draft.
Yeah.
I look at I do what I think's gonna actually happen, and I do my own little mock draft. I've started it. I've not completely finished it yet.
Well, we'll be back to do a draft special tomorrow, possibly. So.
No, yeah, and I'm all for that. And so I won't get too much into it. But I think, and I think we talked about it last Thursday.
We might have.
But Chet came out, and he's holding his medical records from specific teams, which to me is a red flag.
Yeah.
He's already trying to control stuff. And to me, you need to play a few games at least in the NBA before you do that.
Yeah.
So that's red flag number 1. I've never been a Porzingis fan. And I think he's going to be less than Porzingis. And I think there's more talent than, like, everyone's buying into the height and everything, kind of like it's the opposite of Zion. Everyone bought into how big muscle-wise he is. Everyone's now buying into Chet with how tall he is and how good of a defender he was in college. I don't think it's going to translate into the NBA, so I'd be hesitant with that pick. Personally, again, this is going to sound crazy. Here's my hot take. And I'll tell you officially that tomorrow when I would actually pick him. But if I was in the top 5, I would not get Chet.
There you go. There's your
So I'll leave everybody
take
on that for tomorrow.
Okay, there's your bold take. Are you going to give we could just give a number 1 pick here who we think. I'll just say it because we already have intel. The rumor is that Orlando's going to take Jabari Smith 1.
I would.
That is the right pick.
That's the right pick.
That is the thing there.
Him and Banchero are very similar players. Jabari's a better shooter, and that's what's going to make him stand out over Banchero.
If Orlando doesn't, for some reason doesn't pick him, well, I don't want to say him for some reason because you can literally pick anybody. But if he doesn't get picked, Thunder should pick him up immediately.
No, absolutely.
It's like because you get a shooter and guy who can hopefully translate to some form of defense, and also you have a solid power forward.
Hey, and here's my thing, and now I'm diving a little bit into it.
Yeah,
we obviously
go to picks by team.
In the beginning of the season. Actually, can you click on Houston for me real quick, please?
Houston, let's go.
Or beginning of the season. Sorry, beginning of the show. We talked about Orlando. Yeah, they have pick 17. Sorry, can you click on Orlando now? Sorry. I just want to see what they have.
They've got one and then 2 second rounders.
2 second. Okay, so that doesn't really.
Yeah.
If I'm Houston, and this is what I think of Jabari Smith.
Yeah.
Houston needs a forward. I don't know. We don't know what the Thunder are going to do. They're kind of up in the air right now. The Thunder, in my eyes, can change this whole draft because if they take Chet, Houston should be celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: Orlando might even take him. That's what's kind of wild is Orlando and the Thunder. And if I'm Houston, don't let that happen. Orlando's already been rumored to be trading that pick. It's rumored that Houston has no interest in trading their pick. If I'm Houston, get up to number 1. Jump the Thunder and take Jabari Smith. He'd mesh really well with that young front court or back court, already with Jalen Green and company. To me, that needs to be Houston's pick. And I would, and obviously you're getting number 1 pick, so you're going to have to go up a lot. Yeah. I would package, and I don't know if it would take that. I don't know the ins and outs.
Houston clearly needs to trade Boban.
I would consider doing 1 and 17.
Yeah.
I would consider 3 and 17 for number 1. I think that's a lot, so I don't think that's what it would take. You probably, I don't know what you throw in there. Because here's my thing, and this will also depend on what Orlando. If they're leaning towards Chet, I would absolutely do that deal. Because here's the thing. Well, again, it's all going to depend on the Thunder, but if you're the Magic, you have Mo Bamba.
Yeah.
Which, you have Mo Bamba. You can make that trade.
I hope you didn't forget Mo Bamba exists. He's not just a song because he is.
I didn't.
No, it's like
I think it's one of those. It's just funny hearing his name now.
No, it's like when he said that, I'm just like thinking of some Obama meme. So it's just like that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, never mind. I was completely
2 different things. But no, and that's where it's gonna get fun, and I could dive into all the ins and outs and all this different stuff too, because I think tomorrow's gonna be a heavy trade day. Like I think there's gonna be a lot of different trades that happen. Thursday, and
I mean, you could see some.
yeah, you're not wrong. You could see some trades tomorrow, but there's so many different rumors. I think Jabari Smith is the front runner here for that first pick, and that's where Orlando's got to decide: do you want Jabari or do you want to make a trade? But it's an interesting case here, and like you said, Sacramento is where it's gonna get interesting too. Yeah. I'll do a quick thing on them. I was looking at they're gonna get Jaden Ivey if they stay at 4. While I think Jaden Ivey from Purdue is gonna be a fantastic player, it is by far not what they need.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, and I know Sacramento is going to do it, and I think Jaden Ivey's going to be a fantastic player. I'd easily take him at number 5, but he's by far not what the Kings need.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be crazy here is him and Fox, and what are they traded here? Who am I thinking? Who are they getting that heel deal? I can't remember who, but I'll have it tomorrow. But
yeah,
their pick, where is he?
I mean, Ivy's projected 4.
No. Kings, their pick needs to be, if you go back to that last page real quick.
Shooting guard, small forward, power forward.
Yeah, they need to go get, I love Benedict Marthroon, or however you say his last name, there from Arizona. That, if I'm the Kings, that's my pick there.
Yeah, I know I've seen Keegan Murray potentially as an option for them.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick either.
Yeah, power forward out of Iowa, that would be something they do need. It will be a very power forward heavy draft. 4 out of 5 top projected guys, power forwards. You could convert some of those to centers, maybe. I mean, we've seen that happen a lot in the NBA. It is a positionless game pretty much nowadays.
It is.
I mean, if you have an ability to, a good ability to shoot, then
and
you're
also,
pretty much everywhere.
We do have some news here. Getting to it right off the laptop. The Hornets are looking to trade one of their 2 first-round picks alongside Gordon Hayward. They are trying to clear up cap space to keep Miles Bridges. That is some news we've heard. I know we've talked about the Hornets a little bit earlier today with the Mike D'Antoni stuff.
Yeah, as much as picks are important, that's actually a solid thing to do because team can take, and team that can willingly take cap can pick up Hayward.
Yeah, so they're trying to deal either a 13 or 15 here to see what they can get. So that might shake things up a little bit. We might
can
see
you go to the Thunder? So you kind of just see.
And this is why as you do that. That's what stinks real quick about the I'm blanking on his name. But the Warriors assistant that backed out on the Hornets, you're now going into the draft tomorrow without a coach. Or I keep saying tomorrow, Thursday, without a coach.
It feels like tomorrow.
That stinks for them. Like, you got to draft not knowing on what kind of scheme you're going to have next year.
Yeah.
Like, that could change everything. Obviously, like you mentioned, you want to bring back Miles Bridges. I mean, that goes without saying and everything. But, like, how are you supposed to draft not knowing what kind of team your coach is going to run?
Yeah, I don't know if that's one of them. You know, if D'Antoni met with Jordan today, said, hey, what outline do you want us to run? I don't know if they discussed that. I would think that'd be something they talked about if he is going to get the job, which, I mean, with how late you are in the coach's hiring period, you probably should just go ahead and hire him.
Just a small update on the Arkansas-Auburn game. It is currently 4-0 going into the 4th.
Alrighty.
That's a quick bomb to the 3rd.
Yeah, that was 1, 2, 3, it feels like.
They struck out 2 guys in. I think one guy just got thrown out.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Razorback McIntyre's been pitching really good for Razorbacks.
Alrighty. That sounds about right. But
when he had a pitching for relief, he was really good.
Yeah.
So.
Alrighty. Well, unless we got any other final thoughts, that should be all for tonight.
No, I'm happy. I'm excited for this on Thursday. That's for
I'm nervous on just how their Thunder's picks will turn out because you have the 2nd and you have the 3rd. Is it the 12th pick? Yeah, so I'm concerned about, and we also have the 30th. But I'm concerned how this will turn out, how our picks will turn out, because while we have all these first round picks, it's a matter of how are they going to develop, because I'm concerned that it won't pan out as well as some of the especially with some of the past picks the Thunder has had didn't turn out well.
I gotta say, I'm gonna do a Dallas Mavericks preview real quick. Nothing. Literally nothing. That pick's getting shipped to Houston.
They gotta update that.
I've got the the easiest draft coverage in the. I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna let the show begin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but as a Mavericks fan, you should be worried about that.
I should be.
Knicks
but,
are about to steal Jalen Brunson, which is going to make me really mad. I don't know if you saw that news.
yeah.
And then so I mean, yeah.
something.
So you're gonna lose that. You're gonna lose some pieces.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Well,
I'm
real
sure
quick,
we will.
Because the Thunder have been hot in trade rumors. I mean, they're talked about trying to package 12 and 30 to move back up in the top 5, top 10. Connor, did you agree with my Chet, or do you want Chet as a Thunder fan? I'm curious what the Thunder.
Well, how Chet has played most of his time at Gonzaga, it would seem like a good pick, but obviously you're concerned how he'll translate. You're concerned how players translate to the NBA, and obviously with him withholding his medical stuff, that's a bit of a red flag because it's like, oh, is there something we don't know about that we should know? Like in regards how prone, maybe there's something like there's an possible injury stuff. Personally, if as an all-around player, he seems like the ideal guy, but with the way the NBA is, it's obviously a shoot-first league, so you typically I would want.
We got Jalen Brunson news. Actually, we do need to get to. So
go ahead.
Mavs Film Room on Twitter. According to Jake Fisher, Jalen Brunson has told former and current teammates that his return to Dallas is a done deal. So there you go. There probably be in the range of $25 million annually.
So he's staying.
Sounds like he's going to stay a Maverick.
Okay, but
he's going to get 25.
Obviously with Chet,
he single-handedly beat Utah for 2 games.
I don't blame any. I don't the top 5. I don't blame if they take Chet because the way he's projected and how he's played his entire college career. I don't blame anyone for taking him, but you're concerned about. Obviously, it's like with any player. You're concerned how they'll turn out because you've had players that should have been great end up being bust right out the gate, and or within a few years be a bust. And obviously, that's a concern with everyone in this draft. You don't want them to be bust, but if they end up being a bust, they're a bust. Personally, I would take a guy that can shoot, but also I am a big fan of defense, so you want someone who can play, and Chet has been able to do that in Gonzaga, but I just don't know. Once again, I don't blame Thunder take him, but obviously I'm going to be mad if he doesn't turn out the way he should, but I also will blame the front office and I'll blame the staff for not developing him as a player. That's just basically how I'll amount to. It's like when you draft particular players, you don't necessarily, obviously there's some obvious choices at in the moment, like why did you not pick this guy? And then there's ones you look in hindsight, like, well, they should have picked. It's like telling Portland, like some of the player, like after Akeem Olajuwon, Portland should have picked Jordan, and it was like, well, they had Clyde Drexler, who was in the same position as Jordan. So, and obviously Clyde was a really good player. So it's like you don't pick him. Plus, you don't want to double up on the spot where you have to pick between the two. So obviously they made the right decision at the time, but obviously in hindsight, you're like, well, they probably should have picked him. It's basically just hindsight. Basically with any draft, you have to look back at it, hindsight, and how these players turn out. Because what you think of a particular player is completely wrong. I remember people thought Luka wasn't going to be that great.
Never forget Jahlil Okafor was a top 3 pick.
And people thought Luka Doncic wasn't supposed to be as good as he is, and look where he is. He's basically an MVP conversation.
Never forget the Cavs drafted Anthony Bennett 1.
Was that Wiggins number 1?
Yeah, it was Wiggins number 1, and then Bennett number 1 the next year.
Was it Wiggins, Russell, Okafor? That top
something like that, yeah.
Because Wiggins was supposed to be an all-star, and he just didn't necessarily pan out right away.
No. Wiggins was Embiid.
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to remember who went 1 that year.
Gosh, who did go 1 in 12?
I'll never forget because it was always, Lakers are going to go with the big. They're going to go get Okafor. I was like, okay, I'll take D'Angelo Russell at 3.
2013.
And then they stole Russell. I'm trying to think. Hold on, don't say it yet. I'm trying. That would have been. No, Jabbar.
Okay, this is giving me 12, 13. I want 13.
I'm trying. Let's see. Because the Sixers slogan that were winless for Wiggins, and then they ended up getting
I thought you wanted 13.
But
13 is actually 12, 13. We're talking 13, 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's whatever it went.
Okay, I have the answer.
It was Russell Okafor 2-3, right?
Or Wiggins was number 1. Embiid was number 3. Jabari Parker was number 2.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the Okafor draft, though.
Okay, we're talking Okafor draft.
Because
okay, let's keep going then.
That would have been 12.
Okafor was 3. Russell was 2. Okay, do you want number 1?
Give me a hint.
Well, if I give you a
What team drafted?
Minnesota.
That had been Townsend.
Yeah, it was Towns.
It was like the only player I can think of was.
And then Porzingis
Towns.
was
That
4.
was-
Mario Hezonja was 5. That's just wild to think about.
Wait, Porzingis was 4.
Porzingis
Yeah.
was 4. Yeah, because Knicks fan, that gave us the legendary "Who the heck is Tingus Pingus" mean?
You want to see a
was the
Stephen
best
A.
one.
rant? Go look at when they drafted Porzingis.
that was
is
an
one of my favorite
all-time
rants.
funny rant.
That was great.
That was.
Oh man,
didn't-
Daniel Moutier was 7th. Like that was a weird draft.
Was that Justin Winslow year? I think he went like 8 or 9
Let's see, Winslow
to the Heat.
Heat, Miami. Yep, Justice
Yeah.
Winslow
Was it 9?
10th.
10?
Yeah.
That's close enough.
You're pretty close. I mean, let's just go back and look at this 15 draft here. Willie Cauley-Stein was 6th. Moutier was
pretty good.
7th. Stanley Johnson was 8th. Frank Kaminsky was 9th. We haven't heard of like half these guys in a while.
that was a rough draft class.
Yeah.
And then Devin Booker was 13.
Who went?
Well, that
who
was a
went
steal.
Who went 12? Trey Lyles
Yeah.
to the Jazz.
Poor Jazz.
And Miles Turner went 11th to the Pacers.
Man, imagine they could have had Booker.
Cameron Payne went 14th to the Thunder. Man, if you would have swapped those, Devin Booker.
Cameron Payne. God, he did not turn out well when we had him, and all of a sudden, Phoenix. Obviously, he went through. I think he went overseas, played through the G League, and ends up with Phoenix, and somehow has turned out much better player.
And you want to know the funniest part of all of this? First of all, this is a legendary draft because it had Sir Dominic Pointer in it. That's just an all-time NBA name out of St. John's. Also, Pat Connaughton and Josh Richardson were just sitting in the second round. So was Montrezl Harrell. That's just kind of funny to
That was a
think
good
about.
second
It.
round.
There's a good second round, and then Rashawn Holmes was also there.
Sixers.
Yeah,
I love the Rashawn Holmes.
yeah.
Although I think he got in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of funny looking back. DeLon Wright was in there as the 20th. Jaren Grant was 19.
Who's pick 60?
Pick 60. Let's go.
Who's legendary pick 60?
Luka Mitrovic from Philadelphia. There you go. Hey, you got a Luka. Not the Luka, but you got a Luka. I mean, that was a weird draft.
Would that have been...
So much hype for Jahlil Okafor and Mario Hezonja.
When? Nah, it's too early to be.
Which draft do you want next?
No, I was just thinking in my head.
I was gonna say any draft. I got Basketball Reference pulled up. We can go look at any one of them.
Oh, let's have fun. Let's do one more. Let's go. Go 2009. That was John Wall 1, Evan Turner 2. Let's see who else came out of that draft class.
See where
I think it was 09.
09 is the Blake Griffin, Hashim Thabit, James
That's
Harden.
the year. No,
So
yeah,
maybe that was.
Okay, that
maybe it was
might have-
09. Try 10. Try
Yeah,
10.
I'll try
10 because he was on that Kentucky versus Kansas squad.
Yeah. Okay.
Was that John Wall?
Yeah, John
Yeah,
Wall.
John Wall, Evan Turner.
John Wall, Evan Turner. Derek Favors was 3. Wesley Johnson was 4th. DeMarcus Cousins was 5th.
There you go.
And then
It's not updated.
Ebke Udo was 6th, taken by the Warriors. Greg Monroe was 7th. NBA 2K legend Greg Monroe. Always could get him on the minimum in like 2 years. My personal favorite, Al-Farouq Aminu, was 8th. That guy I had as a year, like, 6th man for the Mavs in 2K, 2K14. He averaged like 25 off the bench. It was insane. Led him to an NBA
weird
Finals run. And then number 9 was Gordon Hayward.
Oh, real quick, while I brought up 2K. The ultimate bust in the NBA, but for some reason I absolutely loved playing with him in 2K because he got every rebound and didn't miss inside. Is Kwame Brown.
Yeah.
One of the biggest busts in NBA history, but
Yeah.
absolutely loved playing with that guy in 2K.
Yeah.
All right, another update on the game. Arkansas just got up 6-0 right now.
Okay.
They got
By the way-
Turner hit a no. They just got another run.
Okay.
Now it's now 7-0.
Okay, I just want to. This is the
8-0.
progression that 8, 9, 10 went. Are you ready for this? Al-Farouq Aminu went to the Clippers. Gordon Hayward went to the Jazz. Paul George went to the Pacers. Just imagine
Yeah.
that is
That's-
absolutely hilarious to
No,
me.
that-
Just that order, because I mean that's just how that works sometimes.
Yeah, no, another.
Oh my
I
god.
go on and on about this.
All right,
Another
yeah.
fun one. If you go back and look,
Okay.
it's what year was it?
Well, I call it ball game
You
for.
You should know what year was Dirk drafted.
Oh gosh, that would have been 98 or 97.
It was 98 because Iverson was 90. No, Iverson was 96.
Not, yeah,
Because it was funny. The Sixers could have paired Iverson with Dirk or Paul Pierce, and they went I think they were pick for pick the pick after the Sixers. And that one, I think it was 98.
Yeah, 98. I'm looking at it here.
Yeah, go read that one. I think the Sixers drafted, I think it was Larry Hughes.
Yep, Larry Hughes.
Yeah, and then the next, I don't know if it's, I don't know if,
Nowitzki,
next
and then
pick.
Paul Pierce.
No. That one, after hearing that one, that will always drive me crazy. That Iverson actually could have had somebody paired with him.
Yeah, I know. See, to me, the funny thing looking at this, I mean, you remember who number 1 in that draft was. Do you remember? Hilarious nickname, I should say.
Number 1?
Number 1, Clippers. This is a legendary draft name.
I'm sure I know the name once you say it, but I can't.
This is Michael Olowokandi, the Candy Man.
And
then Mike Bibby was number 2, and Vince Carter was number 5.
I'm not
that
sure.
was a good draft.
Not sure if anyone heard me because I ended up losing it.
Yeah.
Arkansas is up 8-0. And Auburn is just changed pitchers. And because the game cast was got on a delay, that it went from a double and then immediately a home run was right afterwards, a 2-run home run. So it was like, oh my God, it's like they're just scoring like it's nothing. Because I don't know what was going on with the GameCast, but it decided to not doing anything. I don't know why it was like not refreshing, and then all of a sudden it just immediately there's 8 runs on the board.
Yeah.
So, but it's pretty much at this point I think it's pretty much a done deal. Arkansas is pretty much gonna clobber Auburn unless Auburn makes a huge comeback.
More than likely. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Let's see. There's one I'm trying to find that was crazy that for the Mavs that, like, just thinking in hindsight, where they had a good draft, but, I mean, it could have been a lot better. I think it was the one where they got, I don't know, I'm trying to think who it was they got. Let me see if I can find
Who they
it.
get?
It might have been 84. I want to say it was.
You're going that far
Yeah,
back.
I'm going back because they had, like, there was a year they could have paired Aguirre up with Charles Barkley or John Stockton, and they didn't draft either. And they were both right there.
Yeah, that was
Charles Barkley.
Okay,
he
Barkley
would have
was
been
5th. Okay, never mind. That's a different
like-
draft I'm thinking.
I was
Here.
gonna say Barkley
No, there
back.
was. Dallas got Terrence Stansbury, and the next pick was John Stockton. It was one of those where it's just different.
oh my God, John Stockton.
Yeah, Stanbury played in the NBA 3 years, and the next guy was John Stockton. You could have paired him with Aguirre. That would have been an insane Western Conference fight, especially in the 80s.
I think that would have definitely made Dallas that probably would have Aguirre probably would never
No,
have left
Mavs
Dallas.
had the 4th pick and got Sam Perkins. 5th pick was Barkley to the Sixers.
We got Sam Perkins.
Yeah, I mean, we got Sam Perkins, which is still a great pick.
Okay, so
but
we got Barkley.
You could have got
We got
Barkley.
Barkley. You got Dirk.
Yeah, you could have. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say it like that. But imagine that big three of Stockton, Barkley, and Aguirre.
Yeah.
In '85.
Aguirre never would have left Dallas.
Probably
He
not.
Probably would have. I mean, I'm not sure how happy he was in Dallas. I just know for years.
If I had a time machine, first thing I'm doing, I'm going back to '84, telling Mavs, hey, tank 1 game harder. You would have got the 3rd pick. Guess who's number 3? A guy named Michael Jordan. Could have changed history. Now, we may
That's
have
always
never
funny to
gotten
think about
Dirk, but
Yeah, no, it's always funny to think about that stuff, how much it would change. Like,
yeah.
if, I don't know, hypothetically, like, if, I'm trying to think about a good recent example, but, if, I don't know, if whoever would have drafted somebody else, how you wouldn't have ended up with that, like, that one guy.
Yeah. It is amazing to think about just all the what-ifs that come from one night of the year in the NBA.
I mean, that's how a lot of things happen in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, players you just don't. At first, you don't really think. I mean, no one. I understand Curry went in the top 10, but no one really paid attention to Curry. And obviously, for most people, Curry was a late bloomer. Despite the fact he still put up decent numbers with the Golden State. He just wasn't what he has.
And
he
the
is now.
T-Wolves had Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio over Curry.
I mean, you also consider-
Everyone thought Steph would be Seth.
Yeah.
And I don't know what people thought Seth would be.
Yeah.
But people thought Steph would just be a pure shooter and just hit everything from behind the arc and kind of never be that team leader, but be that great second piece as a great shooter that's going to drop 12 to 16 points based off of threes. And no, credit to Steph. He went out and just worked hard, put his head down, and went after it and got to where he is now. But that's the kind of the way I viewed when Curry first came in the league, was like everyone thought he'd just be a really good shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much what they. I agree. It's pretty much what everyone pretty much thought he was just going to end up being. Instead, he ended up being one of the greatest shooters of all time, and also being able to expand beyond just being a shooter.
Yeah. It will be an interesting Thursday night for sure. A lot to talk about. We'll be back here. I guess we'll be back here Wednesday if we want to do a draft special. That works for you, Andrew.
I should be good.
Yeah, so we'll have a draft special tomorrow night. If you want to know about that, stay tuned for that. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even TikTok. And, of course, always give us a follow here on Twitch or subscribe to our YouTube channel, whether it be NWTV7 or The Guys Who Stare at Stats. For Andrew Santangelo, Connor Gray, I am Cade Kennedy, and have a wonderful night, everybody. Enjoy the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year. You got 1 more hour of sunlight at least, 1 hour and a half. Okay, I just want to stretch it to 2:15. We're done now. Have an actual good night, everybody.